We got that mic on? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of February 4th. If you could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking a moment for the applicants, and if you're at home watching us, thank you for being involved. First on our agenda is a presentation for what's going on with our reval, and Finnegan Appraisal and Consulting is going to come up here and talk with us, gentlemen, if you would, and give us an update about what's going on with our reval. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Council President, other members.
Good evening. Good evening.
Pardon?
Good evening.
Oh, can I be heard? Can you?
Maybe you can get
You
that
want me to be heard, I guess.
There you go.
Oh, we want you to be heard.
Thank you. My name is Bob Finnegan, and I'm a member of Finnegan Appraisal Consulting. My boss, the president, is right here behind me, Dick Finnegan. And what we would like to do this evening is kind of bring you up to date as to what's happening in the revaluation project certainly from our vantage. What we, as the board members know, council members know, our job is to assist the tax assessor in evaluating and monitoring and helping in this project, helping the contractor in any way we can. The contractor is Northeast Appraisal from Warwick, Rhode Island, and again, our job is to quality control and help them along with the town assessor. The project in general is on schedule. The conversion of data from the former computer system to the current computer system is 95.5% complete, and maybe a little more than that since the report we gave you earlier. But that's totally acceptable right now. Some of the ones that are not completed are the more complex ones that can't be just done by computer and so forth, need a special attention. But the conversion of data is going along well. The next and perhaps most important part of the project is the valuation analysis, which is underway, and I can't emphasize this enough, on a very preliminary basis. So anything that's been going on with respect to values is in a test mode, and so that we can all look at it and see what we think and so forth. And obviously Northeast Appraisal is doing this every day, but we and the tax assessor can voice our opinions in terms of some of their preliminary reports, which we have indeed done already. Their valuation completion, analysis completion, is due at the end of this month, and I think they've had a bit of an extension. Valuation analysis leads to field review, in which every property in Bristol is looked at by an appraiser with a copy of the valuation report in his or her lap. So they're sitting in front of the property, and this is what the valuation report says, and it has to do with the fact that this is an art and a science, and computer models, computer systems aren't perfect, certainly. In this, I mean, we're dealing with data collected by people and with statistics, and so this kind of project, this kind of a database of values needs to be double-checked in the field by people with appraisal skills, and that's what is happening. And it's scheduled to happen very soon. As you all know, the weather has had an impact on this in terms of what you can do out in the field. So I believe the tax assessor will work out with some input from us as to what a reasonable extension of field review might be, such that it won't impact the critical path of the project, but yet give Northeast Appraisal a reasonable amount of additional time to account for this very difficult weather we've had. So those are the three. There are 100 little things that have to happen between those, but those are the conversion of the data, the valuation of the data, and then the review of the values are the things that are most important, certainly at a summary level. And our message is that is going well, and we are happy with it, and we're happy with the performance of Northeast Appraisal, and I think we and the tax assessor are happy with ourselves in terms of the role we're playing here. A lot of what we have done is in the nature of anticipating problems, or I shouldn't say problems, anticipating issues or roadblocks, such that it's not, oh my God, look what happened. It's, let's see, we think there's going to be a problem with this type of property in this kind of neighborhood, or we think that your valuation model might be require some more review here and there, and we've been doing that, and we'll continue to do that, and we think that that's the best contribution we can make, in addition to keeping very close track, again, with the tax assessor of what has happened. So we're trying to help in the future, but we're also being very careful to track everything, so if something is said in the meeting, that gets written down, and so we have detailed minutes from every meeting we had to keep us all the participants, aware of what we have committed to. Two special elements of the project, which I'd just like to touch upon. One is the AHC, the ad hoc committee that has been appointed, and the other one is public information. Now, as is everything in this project, the responsibility for dealing with groups like this or functions like this is Northeast Appraisal's responsibility. But as we said at the very beginning, we're going to help in every way we can. But I don't want to sound like we're crossing the line and assuming their responsibilities, because we're not. That said, we have the ad hoc committee has asked us to meet with them individually without the appraisal contractor there, and we have done that. And they've had another meeting where we've all appeared. The plan with the AHC is to give them, again, preliminary lists of values and some relevant statistics mid-month of this month. Now, this will be mostly on sales, properties that have sold, and to look how the valuations look compared to the sale prices. So we're planning to give them, again, I don't want to be obnoxious about it, but these preliminary values. They not have been exposed to final computer analysis nor field review. But it's something that they can sink their teeth into, and that's what they want to do. Thereafter, a week or two later, we will be giving them a similar listing of preliminary values for the entire town, probably listed by street, so that they can maybe look in their neighborhoods or that sort of thing. And again, these will not be finalized by field review, but it'll give the members of the committee, and some of them, I'll say all of them, are very dedicated and want to spend the time to do this. So we will continue with the tax assessor to work with them, and I think that from now on, any work we do will also include Northeast Appraisal. That certainly will be our recommendation. We don't want to be, we want all the involved parties to be involved in every meeting. The last thing is public information. I mean, whatever you'd like to talk about, I will. But public information is something that has been spearheaded by the tax assessor, and we've had a lot of experience in that regard, and so has Northeast. In that regard, we have planned 2 pretty much formal public information meetings on Saturday mornings, and the first is this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock at the library, and a public information release to that effect will be in the Phoenix tomorrow. So is the Phoenix the right paper? It is, yeah. So we're hoping that we will publicize that well. We've also, at the suggestion of some of the groups, we've also reached out to the Rotary and the merchants. Not that this meeting is going to be directed toward them, but they seem to have a greater thirst for information at this point. So we have sent them copies of the PowerPoint presentation, and incidentally, there is a PowerPoint presentation describing this process that's been on the town website for quite a while now, and we will be using a version of that, not we, but Northeast will be using a version of that in the presentation this coming Saturday. That PowerPoint is what's been sent to the Rotary and to the other folks. I mean, they could have looked it up online, but I'm just pointing out that we try to make out a special take special care to address those publics because they seem to want us to do so. The first public information meeting is something like has never been held in Bristol before, maybe one place. It's not really about values. It's about how this system works and how your values will be developed. And Northeast has as I said, a program on that. We, especially Dick Finnegan, have made contributions to that. And that's what this Saturday is going to be devoted to. A lot of times people come to meetings like this, only one thing they want to know: what's my value? And I don't blame them for that. But so we may be, in that respect, they may be a little bit disappointed if they don't read the press release and if they don't understand it. This is something that we all think is useful. If people can learn something about this process without their own assessment in the forefront of their mind. We're here to see property tax is complicated, and we're here to show you folks how it works. And then in March 14th specifically, a second public information meeting has been scheduled, also at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, also at the library. And some of this may be a repetition of what we do in the first in terms of how this works, but this will have a stronger influence on what the values actually are, because by that time we will have finished. The Northeast appraiser will have finished field review. We'll have finished with the tax assessor monitoring those numbers, and there'll still be plenty of final checking left to do. There's still a couple of weeks before the beginning of hearings, but we will talk a little bit about what's happened in town. The idea being to try to minimize the surprises a little bit, and so I don't. People could want their specific assessments. They will not be available, but we will certainly be able to talk about the process a little more, and give a sense as to, ask Northeast to give a sense as to what's really happened out there. Those are the notes that I have talking about the status of the project, the relationship with the ad hoc committee, and public information. And this is a summary of the meeting that we submitted to the council earlier this week. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. First is, if I'm interested in going to Saturday's meeting, then I'm going to learn about the process, not necessarily dollar figures. So
That's correct.
How we're arriving to those dollar figures.
Yes, sir.
So it'll be the March 14th meeting that'll have a little bit more in regards to overall values, not necessarily specific to one's home. Is that correct?
Absolutely, on both counts.
So if I'm going to the first one, I just want to understand the process. Second one, I'll understand a little bit more about the dollars.
Yes.
Okay. I want an expectation so people that are not coming saying, well, what's my home worth, as you've mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It'd be great. Anybody that can say that would be great.
Okay.
First of all, you're music to my ears when you say that you're diligent about the data that's coming in, and that you guys are taking this slow and you're looking at each sale and each property and and all the data. So it's great, because we want to make sure we do this right. And I just wanted to know, on Saturday's meeting, is that going to be recorded at all, or if people can make it, or?
I don't
Or is it
know.
kind of
It's
a-
whatever the practice. Typically, in many towns like this, it is recorded and it's put on the town website. But I don't know what the practice is here.
Okay.
But we don't have the recording equipment with us, and I don't think Northeast will either. So
Okay.
if it is to be recorded, I think the town would have to come up with whatever hardware is necessary for that.
Okay.
I might
Please,
I might mention, Mr. Sweeney, that we're not looking at anything we do is on a sampled basis. With the tax assessor, we sit down there. We're not looking at every property by any, or even every sale.
You're doing
But
this.
Northeast is looking at every one, to be sure. And we're double-checking the consistency as well as the accuracy with which they do that. Consistency sometimes can be more important than accuracy. If that makes any sense, probably doesn't.
But you're doing more of like a sampling in a way.
Yes, and we have very, very detailed status meetings with them. I mean, the minutes to one of our status meetings could be 5 or 6 pages long, and that's where most of the issues, I'm not going to use the word problems, but most of the issues come up during those, and hopefully those are before the fact. But I won't say those are on a sampling basis, but they're on a I just want to make the point that we're not looking at every property.
Right.
We're trying to get a sense of everything that's going on by virtue of sampling and by virtue of communication.
And making sure you catch those outliers and look at those twice.
They'll be looking at outliers, and guess what? One thing I should mention is that I forgot to mention that the chairman of the ad hoc committee asked us to join him today, just today. It had been rescheduled because of snow, to go look at every water-influenced property in Papasquash. And Dick and Chris Belair and I, have been doing that with him all afternoon. He happens to live in Papasquash, and we literally visited every property, and Chris and Paul Sidlowski got out and looked at everyone. Dick and I kind of stayed in the car, but because we didn't have boots. But yeah, and so it was very helpful to us, to Dick and myself, to get a real understanding of what Papasquash is and what the challenges are. And so we had Mr. Sidlowski, as I say, lives there, has lived there for a long time. He seemed like he knew every house. And so he was certainly not making the decisions in any sense, but he was trying to give us opinions on a simple scale, A, B, C, D, of what the view influence as well as the waterfront influence was from somebody who knows it well and is not in the appraisal business and so forth. So we did that today, and then we came back, frankly, and checked it with some of the tax assessors' data, and we think that we learned a lot. And it's, as you know, if you don't know something about Papasquash in this town, you better not be in this town, in this business. So it was very helpful to us, and I think that it will be helpful to the to Northeast appraisal as well, because most of what we have learned we're documenting and will be passed along to them, and then at some later point we'll be reviewing that to see if it was used, consistently. So that was four of us spent all afternoon doing that, and it was very helpful, and in many ways.
Thank you.
Mr. Finnegan, I want to thank you very much for a good presentation. And I'd like to add to the chairman's encouragement to townspeople, particularly those listening to the view here, that try to come out and witness this process at the meeting this weekend. It's Saturday morning at 10 a.m. at the library, correct?
Yes, sir.
You'll be there, won't you?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, that's great. Now, in the lead up to this, there was some talk about trying to examine and possibly modify some of the divisions within the town. I take it that really has not been done in this cycle.
You're referring to neighborhood?
Yeah, neighborhoods.
There will be the potential for neighborhood delineation is there during field review. If the field review is out there and says, oh my God, this part of town is really nothing like that part of town, and maybe there's been a subdivision.
So that still is on the table?
Yeah. Do you want to comment on that, Dave?
Yes. In general,
Come on up, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In general, Northeast Appraisal is starting out by using the neighborhood delineation boundaries that we used not in the 2013 clipboard revaluation, but back to the 2010 Northeast revaluation. So it went back to those neighborhoods. So that was their starting point. And as Bob said, that as they go through field review and it becomes apparent, if it does so, that there need to be changes in the delineations of neighborhoods, they'll be making them at that time.
Well, I'm glad to hear there's still a possibility, because as you probably realize, both here and other places, one of the great difficulties is when there are neighbors in different delineations, and they can have a big difference in their values even if they're across the street from each other.
Yes.
We want to try to avoid that as much as possible, in fairness to everybody.
That's something that is very much in the minds of people who are doing the field review, to watch out for those kinds of problems.
Good. Now, there was mention of the fact that Northeast is going around and viewing the places. I take it that really is just an opportunity to sound the alarm if they find something that's quite wrong, so that the study can continue. I mean, they can't really appraise by a glance at it.
Well, actually, field review is a critically important. It's not by any means perfunctory or cursory, because, as we know, in this revaluation, there has not been a full data collection, as will take place in the next one. The contractor has only inspected the properties that have sold within the last 2 years.
We haven't had a full evaluation for 7 years.
So they are using the data that's been on the file, that's been maintained over the years, as the property characteristic information with which to conduct this revaluation. They have just reviewed and personally inspected the sale properties, because if you get a sale wrong, that will influence a lot of values. So it's very important to have the data on sale properties correct. So if there have been influence adjustments, say, on homes or on land that was done previously, say they put a large traffic adjustment on a particular parcel, and they say that this parcel is no different from every other parcel in town, that's something that in field review will be corrected. Or if they see that the story height on a house is not correct, or there are many things that you can tell from the street, and they will be making changes in the data, and then going back to their office and updating the computer file with these changes that they've noticed in field review. And once that data has been updated, when that's applied to the tables that value property, the values will come out differently, and hopefully and presumably more fair, because they've been checked.
Well, that sounds great. Sounds like a good part of the process.
Thank you.
Now, I'd just like to mention, maybe this is somewhat of an aside, we've been hearing a rumor that it's suggested that the values around town, assessments, are going to go down this year. But the interesting thing is, there was a table published in the Providence Journal lately. I can give you a copy of it.
We've seen it, sir.
And it shows that Bristol, according to this survey, between the years 2013 and 2014, had values go up 15.3%. That's more than any other city and town on the list, except for one area of Providence, which went up 16%. So that would seem to be refuting the rumor that I've heard about the values going down. And I just think it ought to be something that people are aware of. I have no way to know whether this is correct or not, but one would have to certainly feel it needs some study.
Yes, sir. Again, frankly, I don't have any better idea than you do as to whether or not that's accurate. We're talking about assessments, and we're, to the extent that it's necessary, comparing to 2010 assessments 5 years ago. In terms of a 15 or 16% increase in sales value, I assume they're talking about in the last year. And I also assume they're doing that based on very few sales, because, as we all know, regrettably, from our standpoint, there aren't that many sales over $2 million.
You're using 2 years, though, aren't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
We are. I'm just saying what they are. They're
You
only,
mean in their case, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
they're
think that's
using
the
1
trouble
year.
with this whole business is there's never enough sampling.
Correct. It's the nature of the business. People don't sell in a consistent way across a town, and there are all kinds of personal situations. So we won't be making that kind of a comparison, and we'll just presumably be we'll presumably let the values stand where we are. We're not going to compare to 2010, excuse me. We're going to say, here are the values, and we'll test them statistically, and the appraiser will, and the assessor will, but the asset test obviously is going to be the taxpayers themselves. And I've heard a lot of statistics, and in several nearby towns, frankly, that this is happening and that's happening, and guess what? It doesn't happen in terms of the assessments. And so I think it's we kind of have to take those predictions a little bit with a grain of salt, and it's there, but I can't tell you whether it's right or wrong, and even if I could, I probably wouldn't, because it would be a distortion.
Well, it's kind of in the back of our minds anyway. Yeah.
Statistically speaking, are you seeing any trends?
I'm sorry?
Are you seeing any trends?
Not at this point, sir.
Okay.
Now, you referred to a study you made today of Popsquash. We got into trouble in that particular place last year, because of the particular method used in evaluating the property values. Is the algorithm for that going to be modified, or at least will there be some caution that same error process will not be repeated?
Very much, sir. As I mentioned earlier, what we are trying to do is anticipate problems. That's a problem that can be anticipated and can be solved. It's not, I'm not making any reflection on the prior project. I'm just saying that that's one that can be solved by a good appraisal company, and we are paying a good deal of attention to that. What we were dealing with today was just the water influence and the view influence, really nothing to do with the base land values and as they might correspond to each other and to several neighborhoods in Popsquash. We're not talking about that. But
your answer to that makes me feel very good that you two gentlemen are on the job, because it's so much better to anticipate a problem on February 4th than on May 4th or something, when it's all done and you have to scurry around trying to correct a mistake. So I think it's just great that you gentlemen are on the job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to mention one other thing. You referred parenthetically to the schedule and the fact that the notices will go out and all. I'd just like to offer a little caution about the notices going out. We've had two bad experiences here. One year, there was a meeting of the council with the assessor, and went all through it, and seemed fairly logical, as much as some of us thought. And the notices didn't go out as scheduled. And they didn't go out the next week, and they didn't go out the next week. It turned out that our previous assessor, Evelyn, prior to our current assessor, went ahead over the next month and changed everything around. So that was disquieting. And then last year, the opposite happened, that there wasn't any real notification to the council. And all of a sudden, these notices went out, and there were many of them wrong. And it ended up with a big outcry to the town and a lot of unhappy people. So my caution is that we be a little careful that we're ready to send out these notices, and we're confident in them. And I think it would be good if the council is briefed very definitely in a complete way before the notices go out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. Definitely.
I was going to touch on that. I'd just like to highlight, thank you for your information and coming out to convey these results to the public, and also the teamwork of our tax assessor having these public informational meetings beforehand. But to Councilor Herreshoff's point of the timetable, it's nice to see that you're on time with your timetable, and I think that will run to his concerns on how this method is being played out. Also, I like the communication, as you had stated tonight, between the ad hoc committee, Northeast, and the assessor, because we as a council took a lot of time in knowing the delicacy of this topic to put all the players in place to make sure that we come to the conclusion that's right for all the residents at the end of this. And I think one of the biggest points is the implementation of the data that's being placed back into the CMA system for the town of Bristol as an upgrade, and the transparency for our residents to refer to. So thank you.
Your new system, sir, is quite robust and quite modern and quite comprehensive. So I think
was much
over
needed.
time you'll
Yes.
be very, very happy with it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else have anything else?
No, just thank you. I mean, it sounds like you're all on top of it, and it's something that, we've all been very worried about. And we still don't know what the outcome will be, but it seems like we're getting a thorough job, which is
Thank you, ma'am.
very good. Thank you.
This council was very concerned from the last reval, so much so that there's an old Yankee term about belt and suspenders. And I think it's an important point to come out here is that I don't know which you are, the belt or the suspenders, but we didn't just go with an appraisal company. We said we want somebody to make sure that things are going well. I think you're doing an excellent job at sharing the information. We appreciate it, and we want to make sure the residents know that we weren't happy last time. It was wrong. We did not like the it's not just the results. It was so many things that were wrong with it. I believe it was Mary also that mentioned a few times that it's all of our concern that we have a wonderful foundation moving forward. We don't want to just continue the same concerns. We want to fix them. So on a move-forward basis, there's Halsey mentioned neighborhoods. We've all had those concerns. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate it. And let's hope this works out very well for all of us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for taking the
Try
time.
to live up to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lou.
The first item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is submission of minutes of previous meetings, items A, 1 through 7.
If there are no concerns on the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next, we have a little bit of a hiccup with the next one. The solicitor can probably provide a little bit more information, but basically what is supposed to happen before you have this public hearing is that there has to be a published notice for 3 consecutive weeks in the newspaper, and even though my office placed it on time, the newspaper did not rise to greatness and only published it 1 of the 3 weeks. So I've taken the precaution to have the ad appear again tomorrow for the next 3 weeks so that you can just continue this matter until the next meeting.
So that still leaves one matter for the executive session, doesn't it?
This is the
public hearing
public
portion.
hearing on the
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Dunkin' Donuts.
So, Andy, you just need a motion to continue, is that it?
Yes, as Lou explained it, I mean, the town
Lou
did
did
its
it.
part, the paper didn't do it, the statute, the state law says 3 consecutive weeks, so there's no jurisdiction to act without that advertising.
So make a motion to continue B1 for the public hearing for CNC Donuts, and also D2 of our agenda to continue that also for the Victorine license to the next meeting as specified with proper due advertisement like our town clerk had specified.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We apologize for slowing that down. I know it wasn't us, but we still apologize for
Well,
slowing that
yeah, I
down.
mean, it's unfortunate. It was just one of those things. We're going to have to actually sort of remind them, I think, a little bit more about the fact that these things have to be multiple weeks. Unfortunately, we never had to do that as long as I've been here, but things are such that you have to do lots of belt and suspenders.
We're going to use that tonight, I
We're
think.
gonna-
So.
that's
I
gonna-
think that's going to come around a few
We're
times.
going to add that to the
So-
town seal.
Yeah, belt and suspenders. I like it.
Okay, the next item is ordinance, first reading of ordinance 2015-1. This is to reduce the number of Class BV alcoholic beverage licenses, and this is as a result of the council's not renewing that one specifically on Metacom Avenue. This is the first reading.
I would move that this be the second reading and
No,
pass.
first reading.
I'll second.
So, Halsey, that was a first reading?
Yep.
Okay. And you second that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next is, this is a matter that was continued from your January 7th meeting. This has to do with the transfer of the intoxicating beverage license for from Pandaria Corporation to the J&Y LLC, doing business as Sour Eastern Bistro at 531 Wood Street. You have provided by the proposed transferee the floor plan as amended to include the seating area and also the menu. And I did receive notice that the building officials department did issue the certificate of occupancy based upon the actions of the last meeting.
Is the applicant here? No?
Yep, there she
Is
is.
the applicant here? Hello. Come on up.
Welcome, good evening.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. My name is Xiaoli from Sawa Asian Bistro, and I come here for request the liquor license transfer. Yeah, I think I've been done everything that you request last council meeting, so is it possible to do the transfer today?
I spoke with Richard Pimenta today, the building inspector, and he shared, and I shared with my colleagues that he did release, or Ed Tanner actually specifically released the zoning violation that was listed on there, and also, as Lou's already mentioned, gave the CO. So that is my understanding was the last issue that was out there. Is there any other concerns that anyone wanted to express? Did you want to share something? I'm sorry.
If it's that,
Absolutely.
just the,
No public hearing.
Chief, the discrepancies on behalf of the fire department are all taken care of?
Yes, sir, they did. We went back, I think, a week later, and they were all squared away.
Okay. And Andy, should we be concerned with any existing liens, or is that all dropped from the previous owner and the legalities that were attached to that property?
Well, you have a request, you do have a request for a lien from the previous owner, which attaches to the license, and it's the license that's being transferred. So it's up to you whether you want to make it subject to that lien or not. I would also recommend that you specify that it's just for this, since the buildings never did get combined, that it's just for this one building at 531 Wood Street, and also specify the hours of operation consistent with the zoning ordinance, and in fact, I think it may be even less than is in the
Yes.
zoning ordinance as indicated by the applicant, but if you could specify
it's
that
less.
too.
Sure.
And I'd like to also say that if all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed and we end up approving this, I think that given the record of past years up there, of which the new management is somewhat connected to, I think we ought to make sure that the motion includes a review fairly soon, so that we have, as a council, communication from the police chief and the administrator about how it's going.
Are you comfortable with 120 days, Halsey, or 90 days? What were you
I think I'd
thinking?
actually prefer 90, but I could accept either one.
I think 3 months.
Yeah.
See, 120 would take us to the middle of the summer, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Probably that makes sense, but I certainly don't think we ought to wait longer than that to review things, but of course, if there's something seriously wrong, the police chief can bring it to us anyway.
I'm fine with 120-day review.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Is there any objection to 120 days?
No, I think that's suitable.
So, Andy, you suggested that hours of operation connecting the license specifically to 531 Wood Street. Was there any other, obviously there's stated conditions besides that? No?
And you had stated Monday through Thursday, 11 to 10, Friday and Saturday, 11 to 10:45,
Yep.
even though it was till 11, you said 10:45,
Yeah.
and Sunday, 11 to 9:30.
Yeah, because basically mostly people live alone, they sleep earlier, and we don't want to open that late, and so we close earlier and make it quiet. Because when we go sleep at nighttime, when it's snowing outside, it's very difficult to sleep. I mean, like right now, sometimes people passing by and they drinking. It's so bad. I mean, we feel very bad about that. So we consider closed earlier, but so until 10:45 should be okay, right? Is that time okay?
I just want to convey to my colleagues that since all of the issues have been addressed between our departments and permits and the hours and the zoning rule will apply to you in that building as it did previous, and she did remove the bar.
Yeah.
So with all that, I would be willing to help this business out with the 120-day review. So I'll just make that into a motion to grant the petition for transfer of the Class B of intoxicating beverage to Young Ping Q for J&Y LLC, known as Sawa Asian Bistro, contingent on all ordinances and state laws and recommendations by all departments, and the zoning ordinance that is attached, as I previously stated, and the hours that were previously stated, Monday through Thursday, 11 to 10, Friday and Saturday, 11 to 10:45, and Sunday, 11 to 9:30.
And specific, the licenses for 531 Wood, that building specifically.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Did you want to consider that the matter relating to the lien?
Thank you, Lou.
I know in the past, Lou, we usually, when new businesses go into a building and there's a past relationship with those liens, I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I don't know if it's fair to this new owner to be hindered with that. She's already been hindered.
Well, you're giving away the license that has the lien on it, just so that you understand.
So it's attached hand in hand.
It's attached to the license. That was the lien.
So the lien is with the attorney for not being paid, or is this the issue from the zoning board?
No, this is the
The attorney.
The legal
attorney
fees?
the attorney for the seller
The seller.
of the license is claiming that he was not paid for it, which I don't think that's a mandatory. I mean, if this was a supplier of food or beverages, I don't think you'd have a choice. But in this situation, I think you do. You can make it subject to it or not.
Andy, is there precedent that you can speak to in regards to this? I'm asking the attorney, am I right?
Not in Bristol that I recall. A lot of towns do require it. Some don't. I mean,
I understand the law. From my perspective, I don't know. I'm just a common sense person. That this new owner is taking on.
I have never seen it applied to legal fees. Let me put it that way. Okay, I represented the old owner of the Wharf Tavern when they were taking it back after default and so forth. And the Warren Town Council insisted didn't matter whether you were responsible or not. If you were getting the license, you were going to have to pay all the suppliers who hadn't been paid, food and beverage suppliers. So that was what they did, and so be it. But I've never seen it applied. I've never seen I've never seen legal fees applied in this manner anyway. So I can't say that I've ever seen it applied by a council.
But Andy, what I don't understand is why wouldn't the attorney just go after the prior owner in a different way, like small claims or something like that?
He has
do that,
he has that obligation. Yes.
And that was my concern. Is I just don't think it's fair for a new owner, just because a previous owner didn't pay his legal fees. It was his argument. I think it's separate in that manner. I just don't think she should, incur those fees. But as you specified, other vendors and when I could see how it's attached to that, but I don't know how my colleagues feel.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Stewart. I don't think it's fair to attach legal fees to this liquor license. Andy, what are we talking about numbers here as far as do we know how much or?
Yeah, it's right in here.
Between 3 and 4.
$3,375.
I'll tell you what, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Without that, Halsey, did you want to add anything?
Well, I was going to say, I think it's, just as an observer, not necessarily as a counselor, I think it's very unfortunate to witness that altercation, and I hope you'd consider settling with your attorney, but I do agree that I don't think that's really our business.
It's not her attorney.
It's
not her
no,
attorney, that's the
it's
problem.
the old owner's attorney.
Well, except there's a connection between the old management and the new management, so I hope you'll
They will pay.
find a way to influence your friends to settle that. But it's not our business.
Andy, you want to share something?
Sure. If I could ask the applicant, have you completed the financial transaction? Have you paid the sellers all the money that you're going to pay them, or do you still have money to pay them?
Because we give them like mostly of that, but still holding some money, but not in my pocket, in someone else, like a middle person.
Escrow account?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not accounts like a checking, like a check from the bank check. Yeah. So that person holding about 3,000 bank check.
Pretty much
3,000
it's a completed sale at that point.
So we could use that money to pay this. Oh, what should we do?
Well, I'll tell you what I've heard this council say is that there's a motion on the floor and a second without that stipulation to pay that outstanding bill, make that part of the sale, part of the license transfer. My apologies. So there's a motion, there's a second. Is there any other discussion on this? I'm going to say one thing. I can tell you that I can speak for your surrounding neighbors that they're excited to have quiet and a wonderful restaurant there, and I hope you and wish you success, depending on how this vote goes, because we're going to find out right now. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think I'd like to recuse myself because I don't feel comfortable about this. I don't want to go against it, but I don't want to go for it, so I'm not going to vote.
Okay.
I think you're abstaining then.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, not recusing. You don't have any conflict of interest.
No.
So you're not recusing, but abstaining. Thank
I'm
you.
abstaining. Sorry, I used the wrong word.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Best of luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
With the council's indulgence, I skipped ahead a little bit too quickly when we were on the A's, because we did have a sealed set of minutes. So if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, if you could go back to A1 just for a moment.
Certainly.
And there would be several motions on A. The first would be to unseal the minutes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And then to approve once unsealed.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else you need there, Lou?
Nope, I just want to write that down so I don't forget it. Okay, the next item is the petition of Matthew Dame. This is continued from January 7th. Request council consideration for a dog kennel license. You have a recommendation provided, a new recommendation provided by the Code Compliance Coordinator to approve.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening, honorable council members. My name is Matt Dame, and I appreciate that you granted me the request to hear my petition tonight rather than on January 7th. I would also like to thank Vice Chairman Sweeney and Councilman Stewart for taking the time out of their busy schedules to come see my property. The last meeting I was here, there were two concerns voiced at the November 12th meeting, specifically concerning 2 of the 9 required standards. I've done my best to address those concerns. In that regard, I've asked my good friend and former town council vice chairman, David Barboza, to assist me.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening.
You talked a lot about belts and suspenders. Well, we have a little slide presentation. We could call it dog and pony, but it's just going to be dog, and it's very, very short. But before I begin, I certainly would like to thank the council for, as well as the town clerk and the solicitor and the police and the fire chief and our town administrator for their due diligence on 531 Wood Street, and wish the new owner, who has no connection to the old owner as well. The neighbors are extremely happy. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Chairman. And also certainly thank Jim and Joe and Jim, the foreman at the DPW, for the great job they've done over the last couple of storms. It's been tremendous, as well as the police department. I witnessed Patrolman John Milnick beep for one of my neighbors whose car was left out in the street and made a very good effort to make sure that they went and knocked on the door so that the car was not towed, and I know that was appreciated. And also, as president of Rotary, I'm certainly happy to be a small part of your revaluation process and what you're going through. A number of members have already picked up copies that they made. The other ones have been emailed, and there's a lot of interest, a lot of excitement, and they're really happy with the presentation that they've seen. So if you give me a second to just plug this little disc in.
I'll tell you, while you do that, does the council have questions that we could possibly answer right now while we wait?
No, I just wanted to thank the applicant for making the changes and taking our concerns seriously. It sounds like you have a lot of experience with the dogs and like a nice title of the dog's life. I think we all want to go there if we could and get some R&R and some fun. But I thank you very much for the work you've done on this.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yes, you did a great job. I just need some clarity on one aspect of the 9 standards,
Sure.
and maybe this is where you made the change. But you said that you're limiting the number of dogs on the property to 9.
Mm-hmm.
Is that safe to assume that it's really 6, and then with 3 of your dogs, or does that include your dogs with that number?
Yes, that's the total number of dogs on the
Very,
property at
very
the time.
good. Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
You all set, Dave?
I'm just waiting on
Okay. Is there other questions?
No, I just want to say, Matt, thank you for being so accommodating. The write-up, the analysis, everything was very well done. It was great to walk out to your premises to look at your business. It seems like you got a nice operation going, a lot of happy dogs, and so I just appreciate you doing all the background work for us, getting this together for us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Well, I'd just like to say, Mr. Chairman, that I appreciate your good demeanor and the way you've gone about this. But, we've had some recommendations that cast a lot of doubt about the suitability of this for the location. And I have to say with some regret that I agree with that. And I just think that given where you are and it's a peaceful neighborhood, that I don't think this is a suitable business to be there. So I have trouble to support it. If it goes ahead, I'll wish you the best of luck, but I don't have a good feeling for it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, please wait.
We may be able to vote without this being on here, David.
I was going to say, I think this is like pretty much...
Just an answer to Mr. Herreshoff's question, and in full disclosure, there was one complaint from an adjoining neighbor. The husband and wife, the wife did approach Mr. Dame shortly after the last meeting and said that she had had a change of heart once she had listened to the presentation. Mr. Dame and I went last night to speak with the husband and address his concerns as well. So, yes, Mr. Herreshoff, there is one complaint out of everyone in that particular neighborhood. There's not an abundance of complaints. It's from, actually, now instead of being one complaint, it's a half a complaint.
Well, there are also some recommendations that are negative. Maybe this is another case where there needs to be a not too lengthy review period to see how it goes. And I think, again, if we set a review period, it should include some warm weather summer occasions. We wouldn't want to make the review
That's something
so
that
short
we'll have
that
in the
it
presentation.
deprives us of that experience.
If I may, I just have one more thing. Other than you seeking a home occupancy for this business, are there any licenses, Andy, for dogs or any other requirements that should be attached to this?
Well, I would recommend that you require that all dogs on the premises be licensed, whether they be the owner's own dogs, which we require them, and that if they're taking in any dogs boarding there, that all dogs there be licensed. That way, there's no question about vaccinations and registration throughout.
I think with his outline, he did a very good job on how he specifies on the dogs he's taken in, and you're well aware that...
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
We might need you to invest in a speedier laptop, because I think we're at that part of the show now. That,
The problem is I haven't used it in a while. It's
update forever now.
is it?
It's shutting down.
Do we have any popcorn?
I think it might pass without the presentation. Well,
I'll tell you, if that's the concern, is there, you know what, let's see how you make out with that, but we can potentially move along with this.
I will make a motion, if it's okay, to grant the home occupancy license for Matthew Dame for a request of his dog kennel license with all the specified 9 standards per our ordinance for the home occupancy going forward, which is Section 28-153. As long as all state laws and ordinances and what he specified in his plan is, brought out accordingly.
are you going to include, I'll second it, but are you going to include that all dogs be licensed?
And all dogs be licensed.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, before the vote, could we amend that motion to include a 120-day review?
And I will do a 120-day review to be
You
safe.
might want to go to the time where people have their windows open. That you might want to go a little further than that.
Well, in all due respect to the council, I believe this would be up for...
Already up for a license?
Today, the 1st, and Mr. Dame would be willing to have this reviewed in 6 weeks.
Well, I was trying to see if Council Habershoff thought the 120-day, maybe he would be
I think
for
it
the
ought to go
license.
to some warm weather when there's more apt
It's
to
May
disturb the neighbors.
May 1st is dog
May 1st.
kennel licenses.
What is it?
May
May
1st.
1st.
Well, let's go till, what if we went till right after 4th of July?
Well, it's going to go to May 1st
It'd have to go
anyways.
to like April. It'd have to be
Yeah.
sometime in April to review it, because
the
then it would
windows-
be up. We can't put restrictions on it at that point, can we?
I'd say,
You can always-
I suggest we always view it at the
Well, you
first
can
one.
always ask for another review. You can't necessarily
Well, that's what I
change the
meant, review.
restriction
No,
unless there's a
that's what I meant.
problem, but...
That's what I meant. Can we
I
ask
ha-
for another review?
I have a motion on the
June 1st,
floor,
then.
and I will amend it accordingly upon my colleagues. Is it going to be April or May?
Would you be willing to have a review the first meeting after 4th of
I
July?
would do early April to see if there's any problems for the May licensing.
So let's clarify. The question is, can we do a review on the license renewal portion? I suppose it would be at that time in July. Is that an issue to make that requirement at this point in time?
I don't think that would make sense, though.
I don't think it does either, but I just want to find
Coming
out.
up in May.
So-
I think you just
Just
deal with it in May,
do the
and if you
review
want
in May.
to, at May, set a review, you could.
Are you okay with that, Halsey, that we do that in May? At any
With some
point, we
reluctance,
can...
I'll go along with it, and I hope that it works out well.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any other conversation or question?
So there's still going to be the review sometime in April then?
Well, you'll see it sometime either before or right around the 1st of May.
As long as it's before the license is up. Why don't we just specify as that?
We want to do a
Well,
review.
you want to do a review?
That way-
Well, at the time you consider the renewal, then you can
Yeah,
see
the-
whether or
the
not
police
there's a
department will
problem, and
give
then
us
you
a-
could say, well, I don't think there's been
Okay.
enough time, so we can renew this one for a month.
Okay.
We can renew it for 2 months.
It's a wonderful idea.
That sounds good.
So with that amended, as moved, go ahead.
So we have a
Mr. Chairman.
motion, we have a second. Any other questions or conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Congratulations.
much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Matt. Best of luck.
May I suggest an apple,
So maybe you
David?
can put this on, maybe send
Well,
this out.
you don't need to see it now, but there was actually the very last slide was a message from my dog, Pierce. So I certainly will email that to you with thanks.
We really want to see this, so if you could send that to us,
Yeah.
email, that would be good.
Yeah, I figure we put a little levity at the end,
You put
but
the work-
thank you for your consideration, and I know you certainly made the right decision.
Thanks.
And this just goes to the discussion we had the other night about audiovisual equipment.
But not looking behind us.
There you go.
Well, I know. And
Lou,
having-
you're on. Go ahead.
Okay, the next item is the request of B. Peter Sebring for council consideration to consider an expansion of the Class BV intoxicating beverage license for the Bristol Oyster Bar, 448 Hope Street. This would be to call for a public hearing to be held on March 18th.
I see Mr. Sebring's here. His business is doing very well. We're glad to see you doing well.
Yes,
But,
sir.
I don't know if you want to say something, but this is just constitutes a call for a public hearing right now.
I just am requesting some space outside in the front of my building to put some summer seating out there. and also build a shucking house, raw bar, not house, that's the wrong word, just a little area. It would not be permanent, it'd be on casters, it'd come out of there at the end of the season. I'd bring it to a storage facility, and in the spring it would come back.
So with that said, you're going to come back on March 18th, and we'll have the public hearing then with all the testimony and whatnot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
So is there a motion?
So moved.
That was my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
While the gentleman's still here in the room, I note the plans show details of the front, but there's also a back area indicated without any details.
Yes.
So just, not now, but make sure we get plans of what you intend to do in the back as well.
Okay, one question on that. It probably wouldn't be this year, so I didn't include it. Should I include it even if I plan on doing it down the road?
That's up to you. You
Okay.
can not include it and deal
back
with the
in
front
front.
and come back next year, or you can ask, but if you ask for it, you need to provide plans of what you are going to use it for.
Okay, thank you very much.
But if he does ask for it, but he doesn't use it, it doesn't matter, it can just roll over to the next year,
Yes.
right?
It will, okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
The next item is item F1. This is continued from January 7th also, and it's the request of Jason and Andrea Michaels, 41 Union Street, wish to have a curb cut on their property. Don't have any recommendations.
Jim?
Jim?
No, I actually had a conversation with the landscape architect today. She had contacted me. She had just been brought onto the project at the last town council meeting, so she wasn't totally familiar with it. We're going to meet Wednesday of next week. We're looking, the DPW has a snow problem. We have nowhere to place snow once we plow the road. The owner and the landscape architect are very receptive to creating a small easement for our use. We just have to work out the logic. I've asked Diane to help me with the easement language. And
So you need this continued to the next meeting, Jim?
absolutely, yes.
Is that
I
enough
can't-
time
I
for you to
really
give
can't
us the
you-
answers?
Yeah, I think 3 weeks should be fine. We discussed it in generalities today, and not only the owner but the landscape architect thought it would work quite nicely. So,
Okay.
I would expect it to go fairly quickly.
I'll make a motion to continue 41 Union Street request for a curb cut to the next scheduled council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is the petition is Susan Rancourt for Ident Racing, 19 Weaver Avenue, Newport, request to host an independent road race event on June 28th. You have recommendations from the town administrator and chief of police to approve with conditions, and also from the town administrator and the director of public works also to approve.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Good.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you.
I think so. This one over.
It's in there.
Yep. It's in there.
It's a lengthy race.
It's a half marathon.
A half marathon?
It is a half marathon.
Good.
So as many of you know, I'm a runner. I used to do the Bristol 10-miler when it started at Get Terrace. It was run by Brian Beausoleil and Bob Coomer. It was an amazing race. It showed off more than just Colt State Park. I wanted to bring it back, but I wanted to bring it back at a time when I thought Bristol would be showcased. And there's no better time for me in Bristol than there is 4th of July. So I approached the 4th of July committee, see if they would be willing to partner with me on this. Essentially, it's very easy for them. They let me use their logo, some marketing, and I do everything else, and I give them a donation for it. It will start and finish at Independence Park. They've allowed us to use that, and Walter Bork have allowed us to use Independence Park at that time. But it will show everything that's beautiful about Bristol. The downtown area, the architecture, the history, the homes, and then it will go out and go through Colt State Park, go through the trails out there, not just along the water, and then it will come back and finish at Independence Park with the band shell and vendors, and it'll be a really fun family experience. We are not doing, they have a little kids race that they do at that same time period. We're not doing that. We're leaving that up to them. But this is going to be an opportunity for us. Our company does major marathons. So we do the Providence Marathon and we do the Newport Marathon. But we bring people in from all over the country, all over the world. It's going to be a great opportunity for us to showcase Bristol. So I'm going to work with Bristol Warren Education Foundation, Mount Hope Husky Booster Program, local merchants, try and keep as much money in town as I possibly can. So really, we're anticipating a goal of about 800 people this first year.
That's wonderful.
Exciting event.
Yeah.
Is there any rain date, or is this rain or shine?
It's rain or shine.
Okay.
Yep, we never cancel.
It looks like a great event. I'm a little puzzled, though, about your map in Colt Park. When you show those 3 loops there,
Yep.
Are they going to go around the loop again, or?
No, those are actually trails. So it's kind of hard for me to document on that. It looks a little better if you have like a satellite view. So on our website, it actually links to the satellite version of it. So you can see where the trails kind of go
So
in
it's
and
really a
out.
detour through the trails and then back on.
Yeah.
So that line in between the start and finish of the trail probably shouldn't be there.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Well, I see there's a line, for instance, at number 2 that goes straight on as well as going around the trail. It can't be both of them, can it?
No, but the way that I have the course worked out, again, the map congested everything, but once you blow it up, it's a little easier to see. But it won't, there are parts where it overlaps, but it doesn't loop that much.
Well, anyway, it looks like a great event, which should be a nice addition to our program.
Thank you. The only part that is holding me up right now is, as you may know, they're doing construction on the bike path. 11 miles from Bristol to Riverside. They're not sure yet where that happens. Right now, I'm running back onto the bike path to get back to Independence Park. If they are tearing up the bike path, I might have to reloop them back down to Hope to get back to Independence. But I will have a very constructed plan for the chief as far as where we're going to run. We don't close the roads at all. We'll close Thames for the start and finish. But other than that, there will still be traffic allowed.
Chief, did you want to speak to this at all?
No, I'm fine with it. I reviewed it. She met with Sergeant Barato, and Lieutenant McNally's also reviewed it, so I have no concerns at this point as long as we stick to the plan.
Excellent.
Okay.
The only question that I think it just answered it in seeing the timetable here.
Mm-hmm.
So, because and then having a clearer picture of the map, when I read it yesterday, I thought, when I saw Wood Street on a Sunday morning, the churches, but it looks like you're avoiding that area of the churches, right? That section of High Street and Wood, is that right?
We had that covered.
Okay.
When I first sat down with Tony, he said the same thing. He's like, go find out what time the churches start and how to do that. And that's the reason that we're starting at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
One, it does get hot that time of year.
Right.
And it's the reason that we're going that way so that we're past the churches before they really start with their traffic. Okay. And that's why I did include the time frames for you.
Well done, gentlemen. Well done.
We thank you for taking this task on. And here I thought, I was going to miss your PowerPoint presentation for the upcoming joint finance, but I get to see you in this type of capacity.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And just so you know, I am part of the PTO at Kickamuit, and if you saw on Facebook, the Portsmouth School Committee and Town Council competed in a dodgeball tournament versus the Portsmouth kids. So we're having a dodgeball tournament at Kickamuit next week. So I think it would be nice if you guys all showed up and played dodgeball.
Yeah.
I like it.
I wouldn't recommend going against the school committee, though.
My sister-in-law lives in Warwick and called yesterday and said, "Did you know you're having a half marathon in Bristol?" And I
really?
said, "No kidding, really." Said it's on our agenda. So, does anybody else have any questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
very much.
Susan.
This is wonderful.
The next is the request to use Town Common from July 13th through the 20th, 2015 for the annual Our Lady of Mount Carmel Feast. You have a recommendation provided by the Town Administrator and Chief of Police to approve with certain conditions.
Make a motion to approve with all the recommendations and conditions attached to this for the use of the Town Common for Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church on the date specified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
The last one is from Gary Latow of 195 Bayview Avenue. Request council consideration for curb cut at 197 Bayview Avenue. You have a recommendation for the town administrator and director of public works to approve.
Evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just asking for a curb cut. It would be for a new construction driveway, basically.
Jim, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Jim, did you have anything that you wanted to add? I know that you're recommending approval.
I recommended approval. I went by there last week and looked. it's a relatively flat site, the house is well positioned. There's no reason to not approve this at all. It was an easy one.
Okay.
Is this also on June 28th? We just approved the half marathon on June 28th.
No, no, it will be June 28th. Hopefully I'm in my house by that time.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my seatbelt on for comments like that. So, anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a curb cut on 195 Bayview Avenue based on the recommendation from the town administrator and the director of public works to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is public service appointment section. First is for auxiliary harbor master. You have a application of George Gatos, 55 State Street, interested in being reappointed to the position.
Make a motion to reappoint George Gatos for auxiliary harbor master.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is the CRMC alternate, and you have a correspondence from my office indicating that Dr. Breslin would like to be reappointed.
I would move that we reappoint Dr. Breslin.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And for the Christmas Festival Committee, you have the application of Rick and Linda Williams of 27 Fernwood Road, who would like to be appointed.
Move that we appoint. There's always room on that committee, right, Tony, and everybody else that's involved? Welcome to have volunteers, yes.
Yeah.
Rick and Linda.
We just submit this to the chair, and they just add to the list once, okay?
Oh, we
I'll
don't have to
second.
vote on it, right?
No, you
Oh, we
have
don't.
to vote on
Oh, we
it.
have to vote on it.
These are appointments.
I'll second on Council Perella's motion.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, the next one is just a little bit of a misfire. Okay, you had the well-meaning application of Wayne Jablinski. I think I explained to council in email what happened here. Mr. Jablinski currently serves as the electrical inspector for the town, so therefore he cannot do both, and he would like to remain as the electrical inspector for the town. So I suggest you just receive and file this one.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion, receive and file, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Before you go any further, I always feel like I need to say this. Boards and commissions, we appreciate what you do. It's a lot of work, and sometimes it's mostly thankless. Not really. There's a lot of wonderful things that happen, and we appreciate it. If you're interested in being on a board or commission, reach out to anybody that you know in town. Reach out to myself or my fellow counselors, the administrator, anybody that you know in town, and ask some questions. We always are looking for more people to be involved because we have people either leave town or can't serve on the boards anymore for one reason or another. So get involved. If you're not sure if you have the levels or the skills or the knowledge base, don't worry. Come in, ask some questions, and we'll find a place for you. Thank you. It's okay to laugh.
The next item is item H1. This is continued from December 17th. This has to do with the drainage on Fairview Drive.
Well, I just would like to keep this matter before the council and before the public. Can you give us some advice about how it stands?
Actually, why don't we hold off on that, because Kevin's going to be in front of us shortly. So
Either myself or Jim can do it, but
we can combine
but
Kevin. Actually, I'll tell you what, Kevin. Why don't you come on up and we'll hit both at once. It's a great idea.
Okay.
Could you share with everybody who you are? We know who you are, but...
Good evening, Council. Kevin Aguiar with the Beta Group. I'm one of the consultants for the town that represents the town on various drainage projects. And I can follow your lead on this one, Tony, if you'd like.
It's either mine or Jim. It
or
doesn't
Jim,
matter.
whoever.
Yeah. Jim actually has the same information as I do.
Yeah.
So I'll let him go ahead.
That's fine. Actually, we've received a proposal, or we're about to receive a proposal for design services on this project with Beta there. I talked with Kevin actually this afternoon about this in the 10-yard brook. They're positioned where they may be able to get started on their design soon. As you all know, this is a sewer plant protection project that happens to have an added benefit of possibly helping out on Fairview Avenue. I just want to be clear on that. I don't know what else we can add other than I'm getting a proposal from them.
The only thing I'd like to suggest is that one of you gentlemen add to that further statement of the absolute need for this to prevent accidental overflows at the sewer plant, which have caused us trouble in the past.
That's absolutely a fair assessment right there. That if I could revert back to the belts and suspenders approach earlier, that's really what you're looking at here. On the back side of the treatment plant, that area definitely experiences some high storm flows during the wet season that has historically flooded the treatment plant. So one of the design elements that we looked at was an overflow swale with a drain line to serve as the overflow, which would take it down and out Fairview, following along an existing easement that the town already has in place. So the framework is there. The pieces are there. We're working on the proposal now. I've gotten prices back on survey as well as on the permitting side. The project does require permits from both CRMC and DEM because you have a coastal component and you have a wetland component on the backside of the treatment plant. So we're just finalizing that proposal. I'll be getting that in to Jim in the next day or two, and if everything goes well, we're ready to start on it immediately. So,
how long does a project like this take from start to finish, typically?
That one it's only about 2,000 feet, I believe, plus or minus. So I mean, we can have the design done relatively quickly, 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, really the question will be getting out there to do the survey work with the snow cover right now.
Yeah.
The issues out there are you have multiple easements that we have to reestablish along the survey route. But the design is very straightforward. We've done a lot of preliminary conceptual work. We've had some preliminary discussions with both DEM and CRMC on the feasibility of the project. It was very well received. There's a lot of support for it. So I think at this point we just have to get out there, get through the design, and get something in for them to review. Probably about a 4-week review period. So start to finish, you're probably looking maybe 4 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's when I would anticipate you could have it designed ready for construction.
Yes.
Can this be run in the edge of the road, or does it have to go down the middle, given the size of it, and repave?
At this point, I think we're going to try to keep it to one side of the road because there's an existing sewer outfall. Your sanitary outfall from the treatment plant goes down the middle of Fairview, and then it crosses Ferry Road and goes out to the cove.
And that'll save some cost as well.
Keeping it in that easement that the town already has will help keep costs down. Crossing Ferry Road is a little tricky. It's a state road.
Can you shoot under Ferry Road?
We're going to go underneath, but there's some utilities there that we have to kind of work around.
Yeah.
There's also a separate force main that the town has on the sanitary side. There's a pump station down there that actually pumps back up to the treatment plant. So we've got to check the grades.
Well,
and
you
the
have to put a
elevations.
new pump there to
No, we
gravity?
Yeah, we'll be strictly taking the stormwater and discharging it out to the cove. So this is a stormwater project. But the benefits are you'll be taking some of the additional flow that kind of impedes the back of the treatment plant and getting it out of there so it doesn't flood out.
Don't you can persuade CRMC to go along with this, because the real answer is that they're going to get this water anyway, and with our new method they'll get clean water, and with the old situation they'll get sewage water.
Well, I think our initial discussions with the permitting agencies, what we really have to do is find an ideal location for the outfall. If I can pull the outfall back and keep it off of the beach, and that's where we have to do the assessment down there to see, where the least amount of impact will be. But no, we have a pretty good game plan. We did do some homework up front, met with the permitting folks, and we feel very confident about the the design.
Kevin, if I may, I'm going to bring this down to maybe where mere mortals can understand what you just said.
Oh.
So generally speaking, what we have is the water pollution has property that surrounds it that when it rains very hard for a very long time, with the potential of that rainwater getting into what is treated water or not, and then you are not treating millions of gallons of rainwater coming in, and we get into trouble with DEM. And besides DEM, we're doing bad things to the Narragansett Bay. So this will protect that from happening and put a new drain system in. Is that a fair synopsis for that system? Is that a fair way to bring it down to mere mortals? Yeah? Okay.
That's a very good, a simplified version of what we're doing. Yes.
And I know you're very familiar in our town, and I think Jim and Jose can contest to this, that area that Council Herreshoff was talking about, of the slip line underneath Ferry Road, is very delicate, as we know, with that sewer line over there.
Yes.
In the past. So if there's needs that need to be addressed at the time, I think we should just take our time and do it right.
Yes,
So-
yeah, and we'll definitely evaluate that as we go through the design process. But right now, again, I think we've had some very good input from both Jose at the plant, Jim has helped out, and as well as Tony with the town administrator. We all met up at DEM, so I mean they're very well aware of the project, and I think if we get the opportunity over the next couple of months, we'll get the design in and we'll get it done for you.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? Lou, what do we need to do to just combine H3 into this, since Kevin's already standing here with us? Anything, or can we just...
You could just suspend the order of business and go to H3.
Done.
Tanyard Brook.
Yeah, H3 is the Tanyard Brook.
Sure.
Phase 2.
Phase 2, Tanyard Brook. I know it's been a little while since we've been here for the update, but we have been making progress on the job. This past summer, we had to do the emergency repair over on Cole Street, where we had to fix a section of the culvert that had failed. But we are at a point in the design where, if you recall, there was some properties that were impacted by a realignment of the culvert. There was approximately 10 properties. We're at the point now where we need to meet with each of those property owners to discuss the realignment scenario. We have letters prepared that will be going out within the next 7 to 10 days to schedule meetings with those property owners. We're looking at the end of the month, early March, to get those meetings accomplished. And once we have the feedback from those property owners, we can then make the decision to either move forward with the realignment or revert back to trying to replace the culvert along its existing alignment. Once we make that decision, we then continue with the design, finalizing the design and getting it in for permits with DEM. Prior to doing that, though, we will schedule another round of meetings to discuss the temporary construction easements, which will impact each of the properties along that corridor. And that's the temporary construction easements are basically the framework for allowing the town to commence construction on the private properties. So everything will be spelled out and documented early in the design process, so that as we progress and get through final design, all of the details about how things get restored will be spelled out.
So assuming that you get permission from the property owners, then that's the legal step to be able to be on their property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thank you for coming out. I guess my concern, along with my colleagues, that was stated, is the lapse of time. Not that we want to rush this project, but and I understand what you ran into over the summer, but we're talking about a year of last January when the implementation of what you're stating here tonight. I'm hoping we can get the ball rolling, because we just want to see this project done right, but we also want to see it ongoing and having progress made.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the realignment of the properties, how many properties did you say?
There's about 10 properties that are impacted. In some cases, we're trying to eliminate some bends in the culvert. I believe it's, and I apologize for not having plans for everyone, but along Cole Street, we're shifting the culvert over within the two properties. On Cole Street, it's 35 and 39 Cole Street. As you progress north, you get to Charles Street. There's a sharp 90-degree bends right at 33 Charles Street. We're looking to move the culvert from would be the east side of the house to the west side to eliminate the sharp 90-degree bends. So those are some situations there where there's some hydraulic benefits to moving the culvert. There's approximately 6 properties on the east side of Prospect Street where the culvert now bisects the properties. And so from a construction standpoint, when you get into construction, you're trying to construct this culvert in between the house and the garage, so to speak. So one of the concerns that we had was the potential to relocate the culvert to the rear of the property, and then that avoids trying to construct too close to an existing structure. And it also then would free up the property so that they don't have a drainage culvert bisecting their property. So those are just, that's some minor improvements there that would actually, in our opinion, be a benefit to the property owner, but we still need to have those discussions with each of the property owners.
Kevin.
Sure.
On the realignment, does that, does it make the project a little more complicated or a little less complicated in terms of some of the property issues, like what you described there? Because I know there's a lot of, some garages and sheds and other things that were involved, and now that some of these new changes, would that mitigate some of the reconstruction on people's property, or does it end up just being like neutral?
It's the only one that the ones along Prospect Street where we're looking to relocate the culvert from the middle of the property to the rear of the property. From a construction standpoint, it will make the construction. It would just take us away from being close to a structure. But we saw through phase 1. I mean, we were we were less than 6 feet from some structures on phase 1. So we know we can get in there and do the construction. That one there, it's probably a moot point as to whether or not we'll make construction a little easier. Probably the trickiest part will be on Charles Street, where on either side of the house it's going to be tough construction. It's really about eliminating the 90-degree bends on Charles Street. So, we can make it work. We can put it back the way it is. It's really going to come down to what's.
My question was not so much about the construction as much about for the property owners. Does this make it easier for most of the property owners, or is it make it more difficult, or is it just kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other as far as?
I would view it as probably for 75% of them, it would make an improvement to their property, and the other ones, it's fairly neutral. The culvert's there, so it's moving it from one location to another on the property isn't going to make a significant change to the property.
I would hope so, because I think you already know Prospect, those properties in Catherine, they get the biggest brunt. But the problem, I think, and we've talked about this, is this such low-lying areas, and the dynamics with the culvert as it exists. It's a tricky process that you're going to have to do.
Right. So. We're prepared to move forward. We've evaluated both scenarios. So, we know what the impacts are, and that's what we'll discuss with each of the property owners and get their concerns.
What's your time frame or your timeline from here forward, like, say, between now and the summer? Like, when would you be meeting with these property owners, getting their, agreement on the easements and the work, and if we had the money? I know part of it is we don't have the money yet, but if we had the money, when would this project be able to start?
If we can get consensus on the temporary easements, the temporary construction easements, and that will be, that will be a little bit of a process there. That one, there's approximately 40 properties along the corridor, so that could take a few 2 to 3 months to coordinate schedules with each of the property owners, because again, there's It's the restoration of the property, and as it was stated, in one situation, there is a garage. We're trying to eliminate, major impacts to properties, but there is one that we've all known about on Cole Street, where the culvert goes underneath the garage. So, that process could take 2 to 3 months to get through the easements. But once we have the framework done and we have, agreements on temporary construction easements, the design can really move forward, and we could get the design completed within 6 months after that.
So you would be looking for like spring 2016 construction season, potentially?
Yes. Yeah, you could be ready for construction this time next year. And what we're concurrently doing as we go through this process is we are keeping our eyes and ears open for grant opportunities to see where there's some opportunities for funding. There might even be some partial funds out there for stormwater improvement projects.
Okay, that gives a sense of the timing. Thank you.
Kevin, you've shared a lot with us. What do you believe is the next appropriate update? When should you be back in front of us sharing some more information?
Probably after we have the meetings on the realignment. Just to advise the council as to, here's where we're going with it. We'll either make the alignment change or we won't make the alignment change. At that point, we could have an update. You could see the status of the job. And then we'll be, again, working on the temporary easements. That will be, the framework for, the town and the property owners to engage and understand what the impacts would be.
So what do you say for time frame? What month would you pick on that?
We would probably be able to start the temporary easements end of March, early April. Because what will happen is we have to understand if we're making the alignment changes or not. If we're making the alignment changes, there'll be some temporary easements on. It just depends on which parcels are going to have the easements.
So the end of April?
The end of
for another review, for another update?
I could come back in April for an update. And
that'd be great.
We'll probably be into the easement process at that point.
That's spectacular. You okay with that? This was your agenda item?
Yes.
All right. Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that we continue this item for a revised update on what has been specified here tonight by Beta Engineering, the end of April, or
It's
whatever
April
suitable of the April meeting, which is April
24th.
24th. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'll second the motion.
I'm sorry.
Any other discussion?
Hold on.
29th.
The 29th.
29th.
Are you okay with seconding that?
Sorry, I'll second the 29th.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I don't know if everybody knows this, but Kevin is a Portsmouth resident. He's also on the Portsmouth Town Council, so he gets to be the receiving end of questions like this.
Thank you. And I did have the opportunity to participate in the dodgeball. And
did you win?
The first game. And then you quickly realize that you're playing against kids that are half your age, and
twice your speed.
I can offer you some place outside of this room.
I'd love some video, if nothing else. So,
I was told that I'll heal within another week. So it was a lot of fun, though. If you get the opportunity, it was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lou, we need to go back to H1 for...
H1, we have to do something about that, correct.
So we're going to have new information. It would seem to me, Halsey, that we should continue this to the next meeting.
Yeah, I would like to see it continued.
Okay.
Get a further update.
Is there a second?
Second.
The
Please.
Next coming meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next one is item H2, and this is Councilman Stewart's request for an update on the road improvement program, continued from January 7th.
Tony, I know we discussed that we were waiting for a bridge and road grant meeting with the state since last meeting, so I'm just wondering how we're making out with that.
Correct. Actually, that was to take place last week, and it was canceled due to the weather, as many other things.
What weather?
Unfortunately, I have no clue. I mean, if we just go out there, we'll never know what's happening in Bristol.
So hopefully you'll have a meeting
Yes.
and convene with them on that aspect.
And once we know, once we can settle with them, then we can have a meeting internally,
That'd be great. And Kevin, while you're here with Beta, I know we discussed,
Beta.
that's another project that, in a timely manner, that we have to get going on because spring and summer is going to be around the corner. I know I talked to Jim. One concern, Jim, that comes up when we go forward with this project is throughout some parts of the town, a lot of residents in front of their house, they notice that the sewer or manhole caps are higher than the street itself, so it kind of pitches water. Speaking of everything we talk about, crumbling roads, water problems, but I'm just wondering going forward when we go ahead with the contractor, whoever gets the bid, that the asphalt will be flush with those. I just don't understand why in some areas of the roads that they're raised like that and they pitch off to people's driveways, which they complain to us that it's deteriorating their driveways.
Well, they are deteriorating. Many of our roads are very old, we all know that.
Yeah.
However, I would expect that when we went out and actually resurfaced the road, we built it, reclaimed it, whatever it is that we did, that would be flushed out. I think it's safe to say we want to end up with a good end product where we put water where we would like it to go.
Exactly.
Preferably not a basement or anyone's property. But that's always...
We'll talk about that in a little while. But thank you, Tony, and I guess I'll make a motion to continue this to the next meeting also, just so we can get an update from how Tony makes out with the state, and we'll get there.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, H4, this is from Town Administrator regarding the Senior Center van with subsequent information provided by Mr. Texera.
We did this so we could get our seniors back in front of us, so hello and welcome. Oh, stop. I don't know if you can hear that out there, and she missed Wheel of Fortune, so we appreciate that.
This van's worth it, though, right?
He can grab you from that camera,
Tell us what's going on, Tony.
I have no clue. No, only kidding. No, as you know, we do have the funding. We do have to tweak a couple things regarding the funding. It has to be advertised because of the source of funding. But along those lines, we also we did the RFP, and we'll be discussing that a little bit later on. So we're really moving along and making the inroads that we need to. While we have to do the advertising, it gives us an opportunity to review the bids that we did get, to do a spreadsheet to make sure that we compare apples to apples, as you'll see there a little bit later on.
Would it be possible, Mr. Chairman, to just do the J1 of the bids now while people are here before it gets late? Because in case the temperature drops, everything was melting, it might get icy out there.
Is that a motion, Mary?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second?
To move that.
I'll second.
So that motion was to take J1 and move it forward?
Yes, because we're talking about the topic anyway.
And we have a second on that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is it, council ready?
Yep.
We are.
Okay, this is bid 818 for 14-passenger bus. You have 4 respondents. The first is National Van Builders Incorporated of Attleboro, Massachusetts, in the amount of $54,990.60. The next from Matthew Buses of Ballston Spa, New York, the amount of $53,211. The third from Anderson Motors Incorporated of East Providence, the amount of $57,999. And the last from Dadco Incorporated of New Britain, Connecticut, of the amount of $54,998.
These are very
spectacular.
close. I've never seen one that's like $1.60 difference in this kind of money. Is it? They
Is
could have
it-
rounded it down and it'd only be $1 difference.
I'm
but-
just curious, can we have DATCO do a demonstration of 14-passenger buses at McCoy and do a race, and whatever one wins, that's the one we'll have?
The one we get? That'll be great.
So what, Tony, what is their delivery potential on this, like once you place the order? You said maybe like a couple of months?
Yeah, well, at least you'll be looking at least about another month normally, right, Jeff? For most vehicles? Yeah.
Sometimes they stock them.
Right.
They'll just have the without the body on it. Sorry. They just have like the cabin chassis.
Right, right.
And just people know the body.
Right, right.
So this is a few months out, most likely after the...
A month, maybe, a month and a half, maybe. at the
About a
most.
month.
Like 4 to 6.
If you recall, I had said that by the end of February, we should have a bus. Well, we'll keep striking away at that and see how close we come to that. Let's put it that way.
I mean, also attached to these bids is, what's important is the specifications and concerns that were mentioned, that this 14-passenger bus be suitable to all the needs that you asked for from these vendors. So that's important, I think, when picking one of these companies and choosing from them.
This price is all included with the things that you put in, because those are all in the specs, right? That was all in the bid.
Nobody's reviewed the bids yet.
I know, so my motion would be to, to send this to the administrator and to the department, Jim and the senior center, Maria, to review everything and do what's in the best interest of the seniors.
Second.
I'll second.
No, can't do that.
Well, I just suggest you use your usual language to act in the best interest of the town,
That's
as
what I wrote
opposed
down.
to the...
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down. I translated it.
So with that amendment, I second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Moving closer.
Every little step.
Driving closer.
Every little step.
And can I have a disposition on H4 too, please?
You certainly can. If I can get back there. So we just need a...
That's okay. I think that would probably be a receive and file.
Receive and file. So we need a motion for Administrator Texera, Senior Center van continue from on January 7th.
So moved.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. The next item is from the CRMC regarding the public notice with the deadline to request a hearing by February 7th regarding the application for an assent with Joseph George, 27 Surf Drive.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And a correspondence from Thomas Kogut, the Associate Administrator of the CATV Division of Public Utilities and Carriers, regarding the proposed full-channel iNet transition to IPTV.
Well, we have, I know we received this a little bit ago. It is my understanding that what they're asking for is changing from an analog format to a digital format. And I don't believe it's anything more than that. Is this more of a receive and
I thought
file?
they were already doing that, though.
Well, they changed the Mike. What a wonderful person.
Mike is our
Maybe you can
resource.
come up to the podium and record yourself and answer those questions for us.
I have to take my own picture for a moment. This is 35 years of history is coming to conclusion in the year 2015. The system for taking the image you're seeing at this moment and hauling it all the way through town back to 57 Everett Street, where Full Channel TV is located, so they can put it live on TV. That was built in 1982 and served very well, but it's absolutely archaic technology. With Bristol as the alpha test, there is just to your right under that cabinet a new digital encoder that sends it back in the current contemporary method. I think people can agree who watched these meetings, say a year ago, that the meeting they're watching tonight is vastly improved, and it's because they tested that technology. And with Bristol's testament, the viewers who watched the Bristol Town Council meeting live, they felt confident to go to the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers and simply formalize this change. So it's because in the past some of these notices before the towns have been controversial. I think it's wise that it's on the docket, but my advice is that this happens to be very beneficial and no actions required by the town.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks,
And with that, I'll make a motion we receive and file.
Seconded.
So there's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next is the Director of Community Development and Principal Planner regarding Complete Streets Resolution, and the draft resolution is provided.
Hello, Diane.
Hello. And I slid closer at Mike's direction, not just wanted to change.
You can move the mic, you know, you didn't have to move you.
No, he said I needed to move. So you have before you our draft motion. Just a little bit of background. We've been working with an ad hoc committee of residents who are interested in pedestrian safety. A couple of them have come down tonight to show their support, and they're here if you want to call on them. We hope to, with the momentum of this group, we hope to expand the reach to be a complete streets program. And for those of you who may not know, complete streets are streets that include enhancements and measures to let everybody use them completely. Pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users, and cars. Conversely, they say incomplete streets are cars that were designed and made and are just accommodating to cars.
Promotes more physical activity?
Exactly. More physical activity, which dovetails with some of the other things that we're working on with recreation, parks and recreation. It promotes, pedestrian safety and vitality. It gets people out on the street, gets life to the street.
Okay.
So we are asking for the council to sort of kick off our committee, our project, by passing this complete streets resolution, which will sort of set the policy for us and the framework. And we are not suggesting that this will include anything that's going to be, specific design criteria, expensive retrofits to roadways and things. We're hoping to look at things like sidewalks, other enhancements, bike lanes, things like that. But we're going to be studying it. We'll come back to you with a plan that this committee is going to be working on. And so that's what we're asking for tonight. It's just to pass the resolution to support the policy so we can go forward. And we can look at retrofitting streets where they're going to be maybe on the paving list. We can talk to the DPW about bringing some of these designs in, and then other things maybe for new streets as we go forward.
I have a question then.
Sure.
A bit of a concern. There's a policy that we don't really know a lot about. You're asking us to, so it's a concept. I'd call this a concept, not a policy, because I would want to know a lot more about the details of the policy. I'm thinking of the absolutely, I think, horrendous bike lane that goes down Blackstone Boulevard, where, I don't know how that's more or less less dangerous when people are still having to cut across that lane to take a turn, and people are coming out. I can't imagine, with the parking situations that we have and others, unless you can design some bike routes, for example, where you can take a huge amount of any of our streets for that. And I would want to know that if that's the plan before we go forward and say, we're going to accept the policy. I'm okay about this being a concept. I don't know how successful. I know it's been, not really the peak of the summer season. As far as people downtown using the flags, I've never seen anybody use them. I don't know if you've gauged any, before we've had all the snow, if you've gauged anybody using them or noticed anyone using them or have any sense about how
we have noticed people using them, and, we have noticed people using them, and just, to speak to that specifically, they're there as a tool. If people want to use them, they can use them. If they feel comfortable crossing without them, that's fine too. It's just the belts and suspenders.
There it is.
For
Thank
the
you.
pedestrian safety. But again, we're calling this a policy because it's sort of encouraging us to study it further and come back to you with a plan. I need to look at the draft resolution. I don't know if it specifically says it that way in the resolution. It talks about concepts. Yeah, you're right. It does mention concepts. Yes. So I think that I can go with that and accept that. I think that's reasonable because we don't really have the defined policies and objectives and mission statement and everything in front of you. So this would just be for the concept.
Would the title Complete Streets be part of the Grow Smart plan that they encourage? Is this attached in any way, or is this did you formulate this on your own of a complete street?
There's a lot of background on this. There's a national group, the Grow Smart group. There's a whole, the American Planning Association supports it. There's a whole, EPA has come down with some things to help you do walking assessments of your town to figure out how walkable the town is. So there's a lot of different organizations that support this. And I'm not really sure where the Complete Streets nomenclature came from. I'm not really sure who termed it that way.
But I bet if you Google it, there's a whole concept of everything in there, right? I mean, so it means something. It's not just our idea of like a complete streets. There's a lot of stuff, I would guess, embedded as policy suggestions and things in something like that.
Right. Well, and actually, thank you for reminding me. I did print this for tonight. There's a National Complete Streets Coalition, and it's CompleteStreets.org, and they have published these, fundamentals to give you ideas. And there's it's not cookie cutter. I mean, every town is different depending on what you want to achieve.
Sidewalks downtown.
So, right. Right. So you'd be looking at just, making travel choices more convenient, attractive, and safe, so that people don't need to solely rely on the automobiles. And how you do that is up to the town.
I agree.
Hey, Diane,
go ahead.
I just had a question. So this would apply to newly constructed and completely reconstructed streets?
Right.
Okay. So it applies to everything. So in the way it wouldn't slow down the process when a new street's going into be created, because you guys would be involved to give recommendations as to how that could be improved, or?
Right. So my thinking is that we'll have this group as serving as a steering committee.
Gotcha.
Hopefully we'll be able to bring in some experts that tell us best practices and give us ideas, and build a document where we've got, the goals, the objectives, some action items, and implementation items. And then as we move forward with each of those implementation items, whether it's zoning amendments, subdivision amendments, other ordinances, or infrastructure where we need budget items, we'll be back before the board to get the implementation.
Would this all be part of the comprehensive plan?
It was a recommended action in the comprehensive plan, yes. It was one of the, in the circulation element, it was one of the statements.
To go to complete streets? Or
Yes,
just
yeah.
I think to Councilwoman Perella's concern is what she says about more information than just complete streets. You want a steering committee. I mean, I'm all for the concept. I'm all for the citizens and their tenacity for public safety. That's why we're here. But to ask the council right off the bat, give us a half a page and then a resolution, I think she's specifying that to support a resolution, to more documentation that is provided for this initiative, I think goes hand in hand with any resolution this council passes. That's how I look at it.
Does anybody else want to comment?
Was that pretty much what you were trying to get at?
Well, I just kind of know, I don't have a problem if you just came and said, the fact that it's a resolution, is this because you need it for some grant opportunity? Because if you just came and said, we want to put this committee together, we want to look at A, B, C, D, there's a concept out there that's complete streets, we want to investigate it further, I think everybody would be like, oh, great. But it's so formalized that it feels like there's more to what's going on than what we're looking at. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I think the fact that it's in this form, so that's why I'm asking is and you use the word policy. I mean, policy is different than a concept. So if you just want to get a committee together to look at this idea of complete streets and how to make it safer for pedestrians, I don't have any issue with that. But I do have a little issue with a policy and this going to this direction of this whole, whatever it may be, in a resolution form. Do you know what I mean? A little concern about that.
Well, and I think it has some.
Is it more than Is it more than what we think it is right now, or is it just going with a group of people and investigating this further and coming up with some ideas that might be good for Bristol? That's what you're saying. I'm not sure that's what this is.
Right. It's both. It's sort of what you just said, getting a committee and coming up with some ideas that are good for Bristol, but it's sort of from the top down of saying, we want this in Bristol. We want this committee. We want this to be looked at. And I think it means something just in terms of identifying Bristol as a community that supports these concepts. So
but see, that's the thing. That's my point. So we can be a committee a town that supports all those concepts. But this is a specific title of a project. Complete streets means something. If you're in the planning world, or if you're in a different, wherever, that implies a bunch of stuff. It's not just we want to look at safety, pedestrian safety, circulation routes. I think that's all in here, but you're suggesting a very specific model, right? I mean.
Yes, but I guess
I'm
I'm not really clear as to what the, I'm not really sure what the differentiation is between what's in their suggested planning practice and what we might be looking at.
Well, I
and
guess
I'm
it's
not
that we
quite
don't know. I guess that's the point. Like, we don't know what this program Complete Streets
so I can get you some more
You know what I
information
mean?
then.
It's like.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
I
do
didn't have
that.
a chance to look that up on my own.
Right.
Versus using that term as opposed to.
Right.
We want to do A, B, C, D, which might
Right.
be exactly the same thing.
Right,
Like,
right.
you know.
I understand
I
now.
feel like this is wedding us to like a Complete Streets model.
I understand.
As opposed to pedestrian safety, better circulation routes, how to be a healthier
Yeah.
community, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
So it might
That's
be,
how I would
it might
make
be a
it
Complete
different.
Streets light.
It all makes sense, and like I said, it's very supportive. It's just I have to agree with her in to draw a resolution. I just think it needs to be supported in a better fashion on that way you described it. So.
Diane, would you be able to give us that information at the next meeting?
Sure.
Or address those concerns that have been mentioned?
Sure. And I mean, I'm also thinking, as I'm hearing you, I mean, maybe this committee needs to put together their thoughts and come back, and maybe, I mean, that's another way to approach it, then maybe adopting a Complete Streets, a more formal Complete Streets motion or resolution is then part of what they're recommending to the town to go forward.
See, what I think down the road, but I mean, I think, yeah, because I think what this resolution should say right now, you know, if you're gonna do a new one, would be to look at all those things in strategies, including Complete Streets. Like, that's one strategy, probably out there. If you were to read up on it, one model, whatever the word you want to use. If you just listed all this thing and you wrote it, I don't know if you wrote this or if this was taken from some
It's
model.
a template that
Yeah,
we,
some model.
there's a lot of other communities that have adopted this, so
Right.
we just borrowed it and customized it.
I mean, if you did this all on your own without, like, the term Complete Streets, or if you use that term, it was identifying models such as Complete Street programs and others, then I would think that would be a lot better.
Okay.
Well, Diane, it strikes me this is the type of a new initiative where maybe what you might do is do a little prototyping, pick some area of interest, but not too big, and go through the process and see how it works out and how worthwhile it is in the end. And it seems to me that's the best way to evaluate what you're getting into, if you could just do a prototype in some interesting area.
So sort of a little demonstration.
Little demonstration.
A case study of what, okay.
That'd be great.
And then some more background as requested, just to enlighten you a little bit more about what this would involve.
Yeah, because with the words adopt, I think that's the whole point that I was trying to make, to adopt the resolution. I just think what was said here tonight and being furbished with more information as you're going to provide, I think just makes more clarity going forward and more security on this.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that because, we want this to be a positive, good
Oh,
thing, and so
definitely.
I want to make sure everybody's on board. So.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Diana-
everybody is. It's just the couple of concerns, and I think Mary put it very well. Good, Tim.
Yeah, no, Diane, I just want to say, as a concept, I'm definitely for it. I agree with my colleagues, just as more focused. I noticed in part of the whereas clause it says invite multiple transportation choices to contribute to reduce pollution, reduce congestion, all that stuff. And I guess what I'm looking for out of here is exactly what they're looking for, more like a more focused of like what area you guys would be focusing in on specifically. Do you know
mean
what I
an
mean?
area of town or a specific type of transportation?
Specific type of like streets that you're going to be focusing on that, just to give us some more meat to it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's not as general.
Because we were looking, we started in the downtown, and then we decided that we really needed to look at the east side of Metacom because there's a lot of concern about that neighborhood, those neighborhoods crossing Metacom.
Yeah.
And we wanted it to be for Bristol, not just for the downtown, which
Right.
is sort of the.
I love that. Yeah, keep it for everybody.
Yeah.
But kind of like, and that would help us take us through the process a little bit.
Okay.
So what's the pleasure of this council? We can receive and file and allow Diane the time that she needs to come back in front of us when she's ready,
I
or
would
we can do a
suggest we do the
continue.
latter, and maybe, Diane, you could suggest to us how much time you'd like for a prototyping project. You probably need a couple of months for that, something like that?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think we have some momentum now with the group. I think we'd kind of like to pull it more together. I'm hearing that there's support to look at the pedestrian safety pieces and the connectivity
Certainly.
pieces, but not necessarily under the umbrella of a complete streets.
Well, see, I
Mr.
would
Chairman,
say
would you
that
wanna-
all these things.
Would you want to just let Diane come back to us when she's ready and
Yeah.
put it on a document?
Sound
then?
good?
Cross
Okay.
that word out and put, Bristol shall provide, or study, or whatever you want to say, safe and convenient access for pedestrians, bicycles, transit riders, motorists, on that second to the last, and then, whereas these concepts are compatible with, instead of using a specific, like a specific program.
Brand name,
This is
if you will.
brand name.
If you
This is
will.
a brand name. Okay.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Nancy Chase. I've been working with Diane and Nina and some other folks just on pedestrian safety and how some of this complete streets came up. It was just really organic because we were just really interested in the crosswalks and safety at Colt Andrews School. And we kept getting into more reading, and in the comprehensive plan it was recommended that this be adopted, and it's really just a philosophy. So if we had this philosophy adopted before, perhaps we had the Hope Street repaved, we might have said, wait a minute, those crosswalks are important. Wait a minute, that bus stop is important. Wait a minute, how are we going to get the bikes across safely here? Can we put a lane? Can we route a bike route up to High Street? So it's more of a philosophy and an overarching viewpoint where in the 50s, when the roads were developed, it's all about cars. Where do you park? How quickly can you get from point A to point B? It was really about mass transportation. It wasn't about pedestrians. It wasn't about, elders crossing the street or kids getting to preschool. And so all these sort of regulations exist, and unless we put our thinking caps on as a pedestrian or, someone who needs assistance crossing the street or, getting someone from the new Marine Center to downtown quickly. So it's not like an agenda. It's not focused on pedestrian safety. It's sort of this overarching philosophy when you're making an investment or upgrading a road or thinking about, a bike path, that you take everyone into account, not just the cars. So it's more holistic than doing everything piecemeal.
I think everybody agrees with that, and nobody has an issue. It's that brand name that's in there that I think we are concerned about.
Yeah, I think that's just the overarching philosophy. I think that's the new thinking versus it being a program, like a grant-funded program. It's just sort of the new thinking and overarching philosophy of not just focused on cars, but focused on the community. So I just...
Especially with our vibrant downtown, and you're well aware of this, where a couple of our schools are down there. And the obstacles that we face that might want to be part of this committee or an extension, whether a liaison to the state or someone that's involved with the state. So when these ideas presented, they could be right there in the forefront to say, well, this is what exists by law and whatnot.
They won't allow this. As much as we've tried to get this crosswalks, they're the ones that are not allowing it to happen now.
Right, and maybe that's something that we come to the conclusion they can't, and maybe that subcommittee who works on that issue maybe goes
Have the
to
conversation.
the delegation, maybe looks at other ways, can we, go around this issue, is there a way we can amend it? And there might be other folks who want to look at, a bike path, but there's no real agenda. It's just a matter of when the town is making new investments and upgrading roads and infrastructure, as it will, to think in that holistic way and not just one mode of transportation, the street being for the cars or the street being for parking.
And we thank you very much, you and Nina and the rest that are involved with this, for your time and effort on this initiative. Speaking of Nina.
Nina Murphy, resident. I did want to just address the flags. And I must say anecdotally, and I've been thanked by people, not myself, but that the group has put out the flags. They are there as a mechanism to provide just one additional visibility. There's some folks in town who need assistance, and they have found them very handy. It definitely has slowed traffic down, and because they use canes and what have you, that they don't feel as rushed to get across the street with oncoming traffic. We've had parents thank us, and as a result of the feedback, the Colt Andrews Parents Group actually applied to Roger Williams University for a community grant, and we were thrilled to receive that grant, which we are turning over to Diane and Ed for additional investment of flags that will be now at the Colt Andrews corner. If anything, we've gotten feedback that people would like to see them on the cross streets because, again, you go across State Street and you feel like you're in an open zone. So we've gotten terrific feedback, and we want to thank the Bristol Police Department. We had 2 of the officers come and spend time in each classroom at Colt Andrews doing a safety presentation, empowering children that they need to be aware about crossing a street, that they cannot leave that decision up to someone else. And the officers spent most of the day at our school. We were a large school, and went into each classroom for that intimate conversation so children would feel comfortable asking questions as opposed to in a big assembly when, it might not be cool to ask some questions. So we are very appreciative, Chief, of the officers coming to do that. So thank you. So we are feeling these are baby steps. These are not the solutions to regaining pedestrian safety, but we are very committed to continuing to explore other avenues for this. So just wanted to share that background with you.
I just want to mention that if somebody wants to remind me, I'll try to find the name. I can't remember the name of the grant, but I know there's one that many of my colleagues have gotten in schools, for schools around pedestrian safety. And I think I want to say it's around 20 or 30,000. And so I don't know if it's available out there. I haven't seen anything about it, but it's not something that, that we would be taking on in my particular program at this point. So, but I can find out, Diane, if you want to remind me. I'll just ask somebody who I know who's gotten it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Halsey, did you have a motion to?
I was going to suggest that I move that we receive and file this good information with encouragement for its exploration and with the understanding that Diane is welcome to come back to us when she's ready to proceed further.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is from the Treasurer regarding the Capital Project Commission, as the Capital Project Commission Chairman regarding the Maritime Center providing an update.
Does anyone have any discussion on this?
Well, I think it would be good if perhaps the Town Administrator and Greg could walk us through the generalities of it anyway.
I'll pass it on to Greg.
Good evening. Where we're at right now is the Capital Project Committee, you guys got the memo, recommended that Tavares Construction get the built. Tony signed it. He's looking to start in a couple weeks with the purchase of being open by July 1st.
Yeah.
The exterior work might get put on hold until September after the boating season, but we'll be able to use the Maritime Center in between. I don't know if you guys all got the packet of the preliminary design, but if you didn't, I can get it emailed out to you tonight or tomorrow. The biggest thing we want to do is, command and control, accountability as we move forward with the project, keeping it well within budget, and we'll get Rick to come down from Kehoe Construction Management Company. He's the project manager for it, to do a presentation to the council. We should have final designs by mid-March on what the interior is going to look like. But it looks like we're well on our way to get this done and on time and within budget.
For the interior design, have you been doing meetings with or interviews, focus groups, any of that stuff with the boaters that would be using it? Like during the summer, do you ask them what would be helpful to them?
We talked to a lot of boaters last summer. We turned a lot of boaters away because and people that wanted to come because we didn't have a shower facility. I met with the fishermen just Monday. We talked to them. They gave me the big stamp of approval on it. They like the design the way it is. It's open, it's airy, it's easy for us to maintain. Concrete walls, epoxy floor, or epoxy paint on the walls, polished concrete floors, drains. You know, we get a storm, we get any flood water in there, we hose it out. You know, a couple weeks we're back up and running again. So it's going to be a good, easy maintenance project. But unlike Newport's where it's rooms, we want a big open concept in the lounge and the laundry area, and then the showers in the two locker rooms are going to be nice, separated, and it'll look very professional, but keeping the mystique of the old armory that was built in the late 1800s. So keeping the columns and stuff like that. So it is a neat project.
It is a neat project. I think it's going to be a great enhancement to the town. Good economic generator.
I agree, and I can also speak for my colleagues here very comfortably to say that you said something a couple of times that we are all going to be watching very closely, which is under budget.
Yeah.
Under budget. So we want to make sure that this is... Did I say under budget? Yeah. So
You said under budget.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay. So we're all on the same page. That's wonderful.
So if my colleagues, thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Well, Greg, you'll kind of keep us informed, won't you, as this proceeds now? We'd like to hear from you every now and then how it's going.
Sure. No problem. We can give updates. I mean, we're moving steady, but like I said, probably mid-March we'll have the final design, and we'll have Rick come down. You guys can meet him, and he's got a lot of experience in this type of stuff. So
good.
So we'll have a presentation in March. Great.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is from the Director of Community Development and the Principal Planner regarding the audit of the Bristol stormwater regulations and request the schedule of a joint meeting with the Planning Board on February 10th.
That is a suggested date. That's the planning board's regular meeting, and there's nothing ready for their agenda. So I thought if that worked for you, they've got it scheduled anyway.
I think it's a great idea.
The one thing that I don't have confirmation yet is that we are going to have anybody from the engineering consulting firm able to come. They are supposed to be getting back to us. So I'll follow up with them, and if we'll schedule it unless we find out we can't.
This is great.
Yes.
And just so the public knows, this is regarding the Bristol Stormwater Management Regulations. And we have discussed it in length between administration, department heads, and the council that this is a big topic going forward of any revised ordinances for homeowners and regarding stormwater runoff. Does this pertain almost like the ERU analysis that was done last year?
It's a different, this is a much more an audit of our regulations. The other study that you had was kind of taking us to a different program in the future for funding,
All right.
as a funding mechanism.
Great.
But this came about, I think, primarily because of some of the developments that we had seen last year, and there was some concern that maybe things needed to be revisited.
Maybe we don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, we're going to revisit this. So we...
And the homeowners don't want to be there either.
Nobody wants to be there.
Nobody wants to be there.
Nobody wants to be there. So this will hopefully enlighten us on some potential edits and updates and different changes in procedures that might help us in the future with stormwater management.
Great. Look forward to the workshop.
Spectacular.
Thanks. So I'll keep Lou posted on the actual confirming that night for you.
But tentatively, it's Tuesday, February 10th.
Right.
Next Tuesday.
Right.
Next Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday coming up.
Thank you.
So is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Diane.
Okay, the next is from my office. This is the draft budget workshop schedule for the upcoming budget.
Lou, does this hit on, I forgot to look this up. Hold on, I don't see it anyway.
Joint finance?
No. It's not like Easter week, like like the Thursday? I don't think so.
No, we're
Thursday
talking-
the
I
15th.
think
It's too
I
early,
managed
think,
to
right?
avoid all that.
Okay. I only see one Thursday anyway in here.
Easter is the 5th.
April 2nd, yeah, so no, it doesn't, okay.
Yeah, it's another one of those horrible tap dancing thing that one has to do when.
You don't have it in here anyway. There's only one Thursday, I was just
Yeah.
wondering, yeah.
Yeah, I know that we've run into that before. I did try to avoid
Okay,
it.
all right,
so.
so I,
This is also really important for my colleagues, is that we have a joint finance committee meeting, obviously tomorrow, plus we need to schedule the joint finance committee itself, the meeting to approve the upcoming school budget. And I'd like to see us do that on March 26th. And I'm hoping, and we need to work with everyone to accomplish this, but we have a meeting on February 5th, and then hopefully March 5th would be our next Joint Finance Committee meeting, and our final to approve the budget, March 26th, is what I'm shooting for.
so you're planning to have 3 meetings?
Yes. Yes, in fact, the attempt for March 5th is to have the presentation on that day, and then give us some time to consider all that was put in front of us, and then the March 26th meeting would be to approve a budget.
Because tomorrow's more just the organizational meeting, is that it?
That is exactly right. Yes.
Works for me.
So we need a motion for Lou's hard work here for our budget.
Make a
Yeah,
motion.
I would move that we approve the workshop budget schedule as submitted by the town clerk.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a correspondence from Edward Castro, 5 Colt Avenue, regarding his suggestion that a gazebo be rebuilt at Wally Street Park.
If I might comment on this, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
We were able to obtain that property at auction about 25 years ago. And incidentally, with the monies that the town of Bristol obtained from the state of Rhode Island, that park cost us $25,000. So it's $1 per Bristol citizen, so we can call it the $1 park. And at the time, we just cleaned it up and landscaped it. Very good work by DuPont Landscaping. And we made sure to not hinder the old foundation of the gazebo, which was historically there. You've got a great picture of it.
Yeah.
And that gazebo, I believe, was designed by the famous architect Renwick, who designed Seven Oaks, the mansion across the street of the Bourne family. And you know, Renwick designed also St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. So I'd like to make the suggestion to Mr. Castro, and Ed is a good guy to run this because he gets things done. I think he should research through Lombard Posey's old records, or Mr. Simpson's information, or perhaps the Historical Society, or even better, it may be that Renwick's designs of such a prominent architect are in somebody's archive somewhere, maybe in New York City. Because to do this, to represent it as beautifully as you're rendering, it would be so great if we could obtain the original drawings of it, the detailed drawings. I guess I'd like to say anyway, Mr. Chairman, that I'm in favor of this project as long as it can be worked out to be perfect and not cost us too much.
I agree with Mike.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Herreshoff, and with...
That was the best political statement I've ever heard. No, I agree with it. I just thought it was excellent.
And I think with the idea of the input for Roger Williams University and maybe collaboration with DPW, and I'm going to even say maybe some collaboration of some mindset from the Tinker project with the orchestration.
We should tinker with
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And maybe reach out, maybe Halsey, you can reach out to Mr. Castro to, ask him to orchestrate this, or Lou, or if it's through Lou.
On a side note, I did speak to Pete Wilbur today, and Mr. Castro mentioned in his suggestion here letter that Roger Williams University would be eager to take on the design effort for 2015 project. And Pete reminded me that it used to be a once or twice a year that these things could be put out there, but it's a much more freer schedule. So you don't have to wait as long to find out if it's something that they can take a look at or not. So it's great news.
Yeah.
So Halsey, what's your motion on this one?
Well, I would move that we take this under serious consideration towards evaluating the pros and cons, and that we encourage Ed Castro and others to scope it out and come back to the council in due course.
I'll happily second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
It's a great project. I think it's definitely
And I will
beautify
talk to
Bristol.
Ed,
It's
and
good.
perhaps I'll initiate the search for the old drawings.
Spectacular.
Of course.
Okay, next matter we took up already. Then we have item K1, the periodic report from Alan Klepper for January is item K1.
Can we combine all of these?
You certainly may. You have the monthly report from Alan Klepper for February, and then a supplemental report for February provided by Bradford Lewison.
So I have a couple of comments on this. This is our monthly report that we get from Alan Kepler. This is excellent information. We appreciate it. It helps us know what's going on. I had some concerns that were presented here. One of them was talking about the Anawan Dam repairs. I guess they hit some unanticipated poor soil conditions, but they believe that the total cost now should be in around $517,000. 85% of that being reimbursed by FEMA, I guess, from the storms and why that happened. That's not a concern. It's to say that that money that we've talked about multiple times from the state funds is still there. You know, if they spend this money, then it's only 15% would come out of those funds. What concerned me when I was looking through this was a couple of things. One of them was that I had a long conversation with the president of the council in Warren, Joe DiPasquale, and he took it upon himself to set up a meeting with the East Providence acting town manager and the town mayor. And they were very clear, at least this is what Joe shared with me, that they are absolutely 100% not interested in being any part of a pipeline whatsoever. All those discussions that came up going through East Providence sounded like they were amenable to it going through East Providence, but absolutely not at all interested in Dime One being involved. So, as I said, I heard that was Joe and I speaking about it. I didn't speak to East Providence directly, but I have no reason to think otherwise.
So they would not necessarily object to us going forward with the project, but they don't want to share in the cost.
That's exactly what was shared with me. So,
They don't get the warrants. Well, they can
If I
decide
may,
themselves.
please.
If I may, since we combined them on K2, I just, of his extended report to the town council meetings, item 6, provide the planning details and costs for a potential emergency connection to the Swansea water system. And I know we've talked about this in depth, but I just wanted to point out that his comments in his report, that they have potential planning details and costs that can be attached to that. So, and the other item, K3, item 4, the financial report highlights include a 3% above budget for revenue and 5.4% under budget for expenses for the reporting period. And if it stays that trend, and I did go to the meeting where they did the increase, and I understand the capital plan, I just hope that we're not being bamboozled with those percentiles accordingly, and they're just being modest and cautious. But when we have to convey to our constituents, when they keep getting their bill of these water rate increases, that when, as councils, we see these type of sentences, we get alarmed. So that's all I wanted to report.
Any other discussion?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm disquieted about some of this information that comes from the Water Authority. For example, if you do believe this January 20 summary, if the revenue went up 3% and the budget expenses went down 5.4%, why is there an increase in the rates? And
They had talked about the rates having to go up due to maintenance.
well, I
and
wonder if they're
there's a
doing
number
more
of
than
years
enough
it's going to be
maintenance.
3%.
But you know, the other thing is, they've just granted the director a 3.5% pay raise, and they voted her 8 weeks of vacation. Well, 8 weeks is almost 2 months, which is 15% of the working year. I don't understand that. Now, I've done a little nosing around about the Water Authority lately. The policy there is that new hires get 2 weeks vacation for 2 years. And once they've been there for more time, the number of vacation days goes up. The maximum is 6 weeks for an employee that's been there for 28 years. So, with all due respect to Pam, I don't understand why she gets 8 weeks, 15% of the year, vacation when there's so much to be done there and so much to be done to this effort to somehow get a secondary water supply. And otherwise, I've also, in my nosing around, been told by a number of people that there's the opinion that the company is top-heavy on the administrative side. They've got 28 employees, and I believe the plan is to increase that to 32 employees. They've hired an engineer, even though Pam was hired on the basis of her high salary being justified by the fact that she was going to fill 2 roles, one as administrator and the other as engineer. And now they're hiring more people. So what I'd like to suggest, Mr. Chairman, is that we consider a meeting, a workshop with the 3 delegates from Bristol so that we can get a little bit more insight of what's going on at this place, because I think that our ratepayers and our citizens of Bristol deserve better than they're getting.
Excellent, Halsey, excellent. I agree.
I think it should be, if we can be kept to not maybe 30, 40 minutes, maybe it would be better to have it during a council meeting where the public can hear the information directly, because it would be televised.
Good idea.
Is that a motion, Halsey?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, I think it would be better to do it during a council meeting than a separate meeting.
That was his motion to have
A
it.
workshop, yeah.
Why don't we specify?
Halsey, I took your motion as that would happen at a council meeting, correct, sir?
Well, I think
Did I misunderstand you?
but I would like to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we ask the clerk to try very hard to get all 3 representatives here, Frank and Mr. Bishop and Gina McDonald, because I think the best way to get into this is to have them all here. Perhaps they could make a one-page written report to us, and then have each of the 3 make a statement, so we can get a better grasp on what's going on up there. Is that the process that you could undertake, Lou? Because I'd hate to set it up and then have them say at the last minute, well, only one of them can come, the other 2 are unavailable, because that wouldn't really be as satisfactory as having them all here.
I agree, and I think we can make sure that we schedule it, that if in fact it isn't the next meeting, then a meeting in the nearest of futures that they all could be here.
Good.
Maybe put it right on the beginning of the docket, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
So.
If it doesn't work, they'll have to have a separate meeting. But.
Do you need a motion to receive and file on these objects, Lou, or are we all set?
Well, I'm sort of taking it as the action for all 3 is this motion to invite them to the council meeting.
Spectacular.
Excellent.
Perfect. Thank you.
And the next is item L1. You have from the solicitor regarding Roadmap Rhode Island and the receipt of HUD HUD funds.
Thank you for doing this, Andy. This was most appreciated.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
Is any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next 2 are 3 are executive sessions, and then we have the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
A couple of things. My goodness, we had a little bit of snow out there. I was at the administrator and department head meeting before the big one, and a couple of things that I think we all forget, which is there is a whole bunch that goes into. There was a lot of hard work by our department heads, our administrator, and everybody that works for the town in planning ideas on what needs to happen if this route gets blocked, and what backhoe will be around if a truck gets stuck, or an ambulance gets stuck, or a police car gets stuck. So it's impressive how much effort and energy was put in, and I know that we all thank you. I know that we've all had responses and comments back from the public, and I must say it looks wonderful out there. Nothing is perfect, and not suggesting that it was perfect, but I don't know how you could make it perfect. It's spectacular. It was clean. It was safe. I'm on the road all day. I go to other communities, including Providence, South County, Fall River, New Bedford, and if you want to know if we were good or bad, I won't pick on a particular community, but wow. We could pass all of our streets. 2 cars could go by at the same time most everywhere that we live. Sounds like not a big deal. Had a lot of people reach out to me about downtown and what I like to call the lower mezzanine, the sidewalk that's closest to the road. There's only so much that we can do. Jim and I had a great conversation about this, and he shared with me that they were going to clean with a backhoe, but we had more snow, and then we had some more snow. So that has not been lost in the focus. And again, I think it's a wonderful job out there, and I thank you all, because I know that at 2 o'clock in the morning, some of us were sleeping, and others were out there with their wipers going, trying to push that snow out of the way, and trying to keep people safe, and bringing people to the hospital, and all the other things that we do. So for that, I thank you. Something else, I've been excited about doing this all meeting. These are thank you cards. I went to the 3rd and 4th grade class at Mark Carmel, invited to go there, and they have different projects that they do, and I'm going to hand out a few to everybody. And they have different projects that they take on, and they asked me if I would come down, if you could hand a few out to everybody. Take a look at these. They came up with some wonderful suggestions on what to do to improve our community, including a pool, I believe, and a water park in the town common. So we can consider that. I don't know how likely it is, but darn it, it's a great idea. They came up with some wonderful questions. They're a well-spoken group. They're certainly extremely intelligent. It was a pleasure to be there, and I wanted to share these thank you cards with all of us, because this was for all of us. And take a look. There's some great suggestions in here.
Mr. Chairman, these are certainly charming. Do you mind if I read one of these letters to the council?
Go ahead.
Youth. It says, this is the picture. Dear Town Council, I would like to thank you for all you do. I have been and have lived in Bristol since I was 0 weeks old. She does have a very good memory, I'd say. I love Bristol. It's a great place to live. Thank you. Signed, Bella.
There you go. And I actually know who Bella is. So, last thing, unfortunately, on a sadder note, Chief, we know the passing of your mom, and we're all very sorry for that, and for you and your family. So, thank you.
Mr. Sweeney.
Well, I'll just quickly read mine. Mine's a thank you, and it says, Dear Council, thank you for all the hard work decisions you make. Sincerely yours, Hannah R. P.S. Can you add a water park to Bristol?
Thank you.
So, Diane, can you get working on that? All right.
This one here is the water whiz of the town council.
Just quickly, the reevaluation meeting is this Saturday at the library, 10 a.m. Come down, learn how they're putting the numbers together, get involved, and I think it will make things go a lot smoother. 2, the recycling committee is raring up. We're getting ready. We're looking at the calendar about different types of events, and we're going to be working with Jim Galiska on putting together some amnesty days and ways we can continue to reduce the amount of waste we put out there and recycle more. So also I want to let my colleagues know the committee will be also be putting together some recommendations on ways we can step forward and to reduce the amount of waste we're putting out there and increase our recycling rates. Obviously, it's going to create a huge savings for the town. So stay tuned, and hope everybody stays warm and be safe out there in the snow. Thank you.
Ms. Perella.
Yes, I have a couple of things, but I just have to say, while a lot of kids are looking for the water park or the Water Whiz, I think we have an entrepreneur in the midst here. He said, please put an antique store on the town common. So
That's a forward-thinking young person, isn't
so
it?
we might have
We're going to check our
a
zoning.
new business owner in the future. I have two things, and that is somewhat storm-related, all the snow that we have. And that is just out of courtesy to like one's neighbors, if people see a path that's been plowed, perhaps you should avoid parking directly in front of it. So unless you're there to pick someone up that's going to need to get there by the path, it's usually there so people can get in and out of their house, or if people living there who might park in front of it so they can get groceries in and out or whatever, like in the downtown area. But I see a lot of paths that have been shoveled and cars coming along and parking directly blocking them. So people should just try to be considerate about that and maybe think about it. I'm sure people don't think about it, especially if you come from parts of town where there's lots of big driveways, and you just find a parking space. And along that same line, this is more directed to question to Tony. I know it's the business owner's responsibility to shovel out their path, but it seems to me that there are not enough, like in the business district, ways to get over the snow mounds. And I'm wondering if that's something that the town could take on here or there, just a few, to make them, more passable. And some of them are pretty good downtown, but some of them are really like not very, very wide. So I don't know if that's something you might want to consider at some point. I know there's not a lot of time because it's been one storm on top of the other, but just a few areas, like if you really had to get to, not having to have everybody jumping over, and it could be possible that the paths that are made are blocked. So.
Actually, Chairman Caloro alluded to that, and that he had a conversation with Director Galuska, and that was precisely a conversation that I had with him, and he was ready to do that with the exception that we had more additional snow. So we had to dedicate our employees to clearing the streets rather than clear the sidewalks down there. But that is definitely a consideration.
But what I was talking about was what I thought you were talking about, what the chairman was talking about, was trying to clear like lots of the snow out of the way along the snow banks. I'm talking about if we can't get to that part, just making a few more pathways onto the sidewalk from the parking area. That's what I'm talking about.
To the sides
Yes.
of the road, right? And that we're talking about the same thing actually. What we wanted to do is not just the pets, but actually clear to make it much more accessible
Oh, no,
for
I
people
think
to park.
that's obviously the first choice, I understand, and I would
But-
love to see that. And I know that was your intention when I had talked to you, like right after the storm, I know that. But in the meantime, I guess, if there's a few more wide paths just to get over onto the sidewalk, I think that would be helpful. Because I know there's more snow tomorrow, over the weekend, maybe Monday, so it's hard to keep up.
No, we definitely will look into that.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
And Mr. Stewart.
Well, it's been 4 weeks, so bear with me. I'll try to make it quick. As Chairman Calero said about the chief, condolences, but during the time of that, as it's been talked about the storm, when your mother passed, I can tell you firsthand that even during this troubled time for the chief, he was there with his department and there doing his duty and taking his responsibilities along this difficult time, so we thank you as a community. Also, I'd like to thank the DPW, the administration, the police, the fire, and public safety during this blizzard, as has been mentioned. A wonderful job. With the snow out there and how it's piling up, school vacations coming up, I just would like to say to the children, there has been some sledding incidents out there, so just be careful with these conditions when you go outside and around the roadways that our motorists pay attention during school vacation for kids and their sleds. On January 23rd, myself, Council Chairman Calero, and Town Administrator Texera attended the Rhode Island Boat Show with our Rhode Island Marine Trades Association. Wonderful job with Wendy Mackey. And Bart Dunbar got the 2015 John H. Chafee Boater of the Year, but more importantly, it highlighted all our boat and composite industries, and during the presentation, a lot of them were in the presentation, and we're just very proud here in Bristol to keep supporting and having those assets here in Bristol and being recognized by the state on such a platform such as the governor opening up the boat show.
Ed, and if I may, the governor actually made a particular reference to saying, geez, is this pretty much Bristol that's all that's here? And it's impressive how many just absolutely impressive companies that we had there, and how many good things were said about them.
And she also mentioned to us that she will be coming down and doing a tour of all the businesses, so that will be scheduled. So we're grateful that she's coming down and looking at our businesses. Also, congratulations to Team Alva Medica, skipped by our own Bristol Charlie Enright, who placed third recently, entering in Sanya. So I think with that, they will be coming to Newport in May. And Newport is ahead of it with their hotels, but there's going to be so many people. This is going to be just a massive event, and I think with my colleagues and how we're interested with Explore Bristol, our EDC, community development, we have to work with Discover Newport. I think we have to be proactive and start on that now so we could be a partner in community as we always have been with Newport, and also as a state asset to really welcome this race and start now with these lines of communication and maybe a group to put something together so we're ready to welcome Charlie back and give him our support. Also, congratulations go out to my colleague and our colleague, Halsey Herreshoff, who was chosen for his tenure throughout his career of four-time America's Cup sailor. He's being inducted for the class of 2014 Hall of Fame for the Bristol Sports, so we congratulate you and very proud of you.
Thank you very much. You know, it is an honor to be recognized in whatever you do, but especially an honor to be recognized by your contemporaries in the town of Bristol.
And also, congratulations to all those who were inducted. And also, I'd like to congratulate our two newest Eagle Scouts, Nicholas D'Angelo and Kyle Jensen from Troop 2. We gave them the accommodations and wish them well, another asset to the community. And finally, happy St. Valentine's Day to everybody, and thank you, Mike Davis and Mark Buccolo, and everybody who came out tonight, and everybody tuning in at home. Be safe and be warm. Thank you.
Okay,
Are you all set,
Mr. Harrisoff.
Well, I don't have any further new initiative. I think Eddie's sort of said it all. But I would like to echo gratitude to everybody. You know, this winter started out like a lamb, and now it's coming out like a lion, and we don't know what the rest of it will be like. But I think that we've all done a very strong effort to cope with it, and I think we should not only congratulate our town employees, but also the citizens of Bristol who seem to keep their spirits up no matter what, and that's always good to see. So thanks to everybody.
Well said.
Okay.
Before we go there,
Nathan, just one quick question. Going back to L1, if I may, Mr. Teitz's report on Roadmap Rhode Island and the HUD loans, is there a document or something that was received and filed, or what was that issue?
that's exactly. I had asked our solicitor. I'd asked our solicitor to share with the council if there was any current concerns with Roadmap. I'm sorry. Let me pull L1 up here. Was there any concerns?
There is a memo.
Oh, could I have a copy of that?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
That was all you need to know, huh?
That's it.
And you got it.
I'm easy.
Done.
And Pete, I hope you keep us abreast of anything that pursues on this.
I'm going to start attending those council Bristol County water meetings again. 8 weeks vacation? You've got to be kidding.
But I hope you do both things.
Didn't mean to slow you down, Tony. Sorry.
And we have the town administrator agenda items.
Well, on the sad path, I guess we could go on with a list of folks. I mean, first of all, condolence to Chief for the passing of his mom. But also, we have quite a few other families in Bristol. Vasco Castro, some of you probably have known for many years. Him and his wife and the family been very involved in the town. Unfortunately, a young man, Jason Criador, also the family. And also Marie Manchester, 94-year-old. She was actually one of the first teacher assistants that I had to teach me English when I first came to U.S., and she just passed away and was buried actually yesterday, I believe it was. But it was quite a memory just to be there and to remember how important the role that she played in my life when I first came here to the United States. You know, you never know who's who and how things play out. I also would like to add my thank you to the entire personnel of the town of Bristol, who've, from DPW to police, the folks from Compost who've helped move the snow. They've done a great job, and we look forward for them to continue to do that. And we've already stated a couple areas of concern, but we'll continue to address those as we move forward. Along with that, the residents, as Councilman Hershoff pointed out, they've been very cooperative overall. We've had a few people get a little bit upset, get a little bit upset on the passing of the trucks when, okay? No, I'm not choking up. It's just a cough for a reason, just kidding. They get pretty upset when the trucks go by after they've done their driveways, but it is the nature of the beast. With that being said, also, the other day, Chairman Calora and I were at the new initiative that we tried to bring to town, the British RO show.
Do you want me to speak on that for a little for you? You okay?
Would you?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you do that?
Simply, it's a wonderful event that seems to be moving forward, which is a British car group or car club, and it's a myriad of cars, including MGs and Triumphs and Rolls Royces, and this was something that they do at Stowe, Vermont, and continue to do at Stowe, Vermont. They reached out to Newport to do a summer kind of, and Newport just didn't have the time or the space and all of that, and they then reached out to the East Bay. This is what I love. They reached out to the East Bay Chamber of Commerce. They didn't feel that they could handle the event, so Explore Bristol got involved and took it on from there. And the reason why I love that is that that's wonderful collaboration. Is that I can't do it, but maybe you can do it. The goal is to come in through 6/12 through 6/15. Am I right with that?
Just 3 days.
Just 3 days. So I'm at 6/12, 6/13, and 6/14. And what they want to do is do a nice tour of Bristol, and then tour maybe down through Little Compton. They're going to have a car show at Colt State Park, and they've got that straightened out. The Friday night potentially will be at Quinta Gamlin at our new rec center. So lots of things working on it. Obviously, there's a lot of details that has to be worked out. Chief involved with that too, of making sure that our residents are safe, potentially coming down through Thames Street and closing the street just for a little while so they can have a little showdown there. So all kinds of wonderful stuff. It should bring about, and watch these numbers, about 500 cars in for the first time, which if you do some math, if somebody brings someone, that's 1,000 people. That's our restaurants, that's potentially places to stay overnight, obviously our shops, and just enjoying what it is that makes Bristol Bristol. How'd I do?
You did a wonderful job. See, and my voice is back. But I know Chief is probably gone. It's nice to hear about all of this, but I didn't have a clue. Actually, as you pointed out, a lot of the details are being worked out. And once they precisely tell us what the needs are, then we'll be sharing that and having a conversation along those lines to make sure that we keep them moving smoothly through town. But that was great. You did a great job on that one. And the last piece there is trash. There was a bit of an issue with trash on Monday because of the snow. But if you have Monday's trash and you had it out, the DPW will be by to pick it up. And if it has not been picked up, please give a call to DPW 253-4100. again, 253-4100, and let them know that your trash has not been picked up, and you will accommodate for that. With all that, thank you.
Okay, you have 3 executive sessions if you want to lead the pack. So I'd ask for motion to go into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2 for litigation regarding the municipal pension systems, and remain in executive session under Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2 litigation regarding the Clipper Way case, and finally to remain in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A5, sale or lease of real property, in particular a portion of the Reynolds School.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.